Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hereby call to order the regular session of the Orange Unified School District Board meeting for October 20, 2022. I want to apologize for the delay. Before we start, I want to apologize for the delay. We had a lot of business to cover and in closed session. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 3B, report of closed session. Dr. Hanson.
Thank you, Madam President. The board agreed with the recommendation to delegate authority to the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services to settle the matter of workers' compensation claim number ORSC-005669 and ORSC-005914. The vote was 7-0. In addition, the board agreed with the recommendation to delegate authority to the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services to settle the matter of workers' compensation claim OUSS-005460 and OUSS-005461. The vote was 7-0. Okay, got a couple more. All right, we are excited to announce the appointment of several positions in the district, and we'll start with our elementary school principal position. We're pleased to announce the appointment of Laura Urquhart to the position, and the vote was 7-0. Congratulations, Ms. Urquhart. Is she present here this evening? Okay, we'll make sure to introduce her at a future meeting. We'd also like to congratulate the appointment of Assistant Principal, Senior High School. We have 3 appointments: Christopher DeArmas, Kathleen Zeich, and Nora Alvarez. And the vote was 7-0. And that concludes my report of closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to item 3C. So that's exciting news. We're very excited to have new vice principals, assistant principals. We'll go on to 3C, adoption of the agenda. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda? Somebody?
I'll move it. I'll make it.
Was that Trustee Ramsey?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second. Trustee Erickson? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, agenda is adopted, 7-0. Go on to announcements, superintendent's report. Dr. Hanson.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I'm pleased this evening in my superintendent's report to celebrate some of our amazing schools and their accomplishments. And this evening, we're going to put a spotlight on Olive Elementary School, which has been recognized as an AVID Elementary Showcase School. And that is what AVID stands for, is Advancement via Individual Determination. And they were acknowledged for this award out of a select number of schools nationwide that serve as a model for excellence and the exemplary systems of AVID college readiness systems. Educators and leaders from all around Southern California visit Olive to see how staff incorporates the AVID program in their school culture to help ensure college readiness for all students from kindergarten all the way through the 6th grade. They focus on a growth mindset as well as a determination to close achievement gaps so all students have the opportunity to leave elementary school on a college or career path. They were noted by the AVID Organization Center as an example of how instruction, leadership, culture, and systems work together to offer students a quality education. And in every classroom, there's a consistent use of WICR, which is writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading strategies, a very high level of student engagement and use of academic language. Olive has done an excellent job instilling in all their students and staff a growth mindset, can-do attitude, and skills to organize time, thought, and materials, and creating a collaborative culture with high expectations. Teachers have expressed that AVID training has provided them with a deeper, more intentional focus and structure for planning effective instruction. Now, while Olive is recognized across our district as a demonstration school, I'd like to say that every single school in Orange Unified is part of the AVID program. We are an AVID district, and the elementary level started in 2015-16, and we currently have all 27 elementary schools part of this process of creating a student-centered approach. So we're proud to have elementary for serving as our model school, and we do have the principal here, Ms. Heather Darrow. So I'd like to give her an opportunity to come up and say a few words, and then tell us a little bit about the video and the outstanding recognition she's going to receive as this video will be shown nationwide. Thank you, Ms. Darrow.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we just got the video this week, but we did work on it in April of last year, so it's taken AVID some time to do some edits. They sent it to me over the summer so I could give my input as well. But we're just pleased. They really did focus on what AVID has done for all of which I would say the biggest piece, which you'll see in the video, is really shaping the culture so that we all have this positive mindset for learning for our students. So I just really want to thank the board for your support over the years for this, and educational leadership through Ed Services. Thank you for your support. It's never been something that I have to question, is this something that's going to be supported? When I got there in 2016, there was the one thing that the staff wanted was a principal who could support this. And I really just followed their lead, and you're going to see that from them too in the video. So thank you for having me and for sharing this with the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership.
Collective Educator Agency exists when educators on a campus take intentional actions based on shared beliefs and trust that together they can increase opportunity and measurable success for all students.
When you have a common goal, it really brings people together, and we all seem to be striving to do better. And I think it's because we have this common ground and foundation.
When the teaching staff at Olive Elementary learned that the principal seat was open at their school, they saw an opportunity to implement AVID across every grade level. Principal Heather Darrow shared their vision, and after joining the team, they've worked together to evolve how educators teach, collaborate, and think about teaching.
Before she came and before we had AVID, we were all struggling. Each teacher was separate in their own little classroom, in their own little atmosphere box, so to speak.
We're very collaborative. We have a culture that works together to support one another, to lift each other up. And I would say not just the staff, but the community as well.
When you have a team who's so driven and passionate about a concept and they're open-minded as well, I was able to come in and be like, let me help you make this model or this template. Or, we really were able to bounce ideas off of each other.
Because not only does it help your staff to be able to have common language and common goals, but it also has that for the students. There's not the, oh, I was in so-and-so's class and I got to do this or this, but it was, I got to be at an AVID school site where this is what we did.
After attending AVID Professional Learning, the teachers at Olive Elementary began to implement AVID, using the same strategies across all grade levels.
What helped us be successful was that we walked away kind of going, I'm going to do these 3 things in my class over the next year. We're not going to try to do everything.
We would use philosophical chairs. We would start teaching it in kindergarten. And then each year, each of those concepts would be built upon as they get through each of the grades.
If you say yes, animals should wear clothing, come to the red row.
Oh, thank you, Maxwell, but I disagree.
Learning strategies introduced here in the kindergarten first grade combination class are the same strategies used in the 4th grade class, allowing students to focus less on the strategy and more on the lesson that it serves.
When you mention the term like a one-pager, they automatically have an idea of what you're trying to set up for that. So they have an expectation of what it's going to look like. And then as you add rigor to it, as you go through the different grade levels, it's going to look a little bit differently. When we talk about our Freire models for vocabulary terms or some of those kind of things, as soon as you put that model up there, your kids know what they have the expectation of what it's going to take to fill that in and to be successful at that. You don't have to go back to square one of explaining the whole thing to them. They can turn around and teach it to some of the other students as well.
The result of this intentional vertical integration creates a school-wide culture that also impacts how the teachers themselves plan and collaborate.
We have specific times where teachers are getting together, sharing kind of what they've done, what we're doing, setting goals for different things that we're trying to accomplish, and start mapping out things that you're going to cover. And at the same time, then you're hearing from other teachers things that they've done that have gone well. Meeting at our staff meetings, we usually have a devoted time where someone can share lessons that they've done that worked really well in their classrooms, or something that they want to try and they want to get some help for. So that just kind of makes collaboration a real natural part of what we do.
I really try to protect their time. So if we have grade level collaboration time or PLC time, I make sure that they do have that time available to them. I actually spend some of my PD times as collaboration times because I do believe that is also professional development.
While using AVID strategies based on an aligned purpose, Olive Elementary has created significant impact that fosters possibility for every student.
Like when I'm going to 7th grade, I might feel like a little bit like less weight off my shoulders since I know how to organize when I'm writing. AVID actually helped me with that.
I like that it helps us be organized and it helps us set goals.
We take notes in almost every subject.
We learned a lot about organization and responsibility. Like every teacher taught us something different.
It's worth it, when you see your student advocate for themselves. Maybe they come from a place where they aren't heard, and now they have a family inside of their classroom where they feel safe enough to express an opinion, and you know that it's going to carry on outside of just this classroom. That is worth it.
It is challenging, but every good thing is challenging. But if you keep taking those small steps forward and try something new, start with one aspect. And when you get in and you feel like you have a full repertoire of things, it's amazing when you go, oh, wow, look at that journey.
What's possible for them is the idea that they realize the input that they can have and the level of engagement that they can have in the classroom.
I've heard them say many times that, yeah, Miss Leon, we're ready for 5th grade. They're confident, they have some good strategies and skills under their belt, and they're ready to go.
Congratulations to Ms. Darrow and her staff and the Olive Elementary team, and also to Educational Services, who under Kathleen Carella's leadership has been able to roll out an incredible amount of AVID infrastructure in our school district. Previously, it was only at our secondary and at our middle and high schools, and now all 27 elementary schools. So thank you to the Ed Services staff and the incredible professional development that they put together in collaboration with our teachers, of course, who also give input to the program. And you heard from many of them how important AVID is to them in their classrooms and supporting their students. So thank you once again, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. It's very exciting for Olive. Thank you, Principal Darrow. All right, go on to President's report, which is my report. Since our last meeting, and I can't believe that, our last meeting was a study session, so our meeting prior to that was in the beginning of September, and since September, we've had so many things going on, and I have a whole laundry list of visits that I've made, but I'm just going to go through them really quick. All of them do deserve the detail and attention, but in the interest of time, I'm going to keep it a little short, and maybe my colleagues will have something to add. I wanted to first say that we visited Mill Canyon for Patriots Day. the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and the families for participating and for the staff for recognizing this important day. We were at Serrano Elementary School for ribbon cutting for their new playground. I visited Canyon High School, the new kitchen with their PTA, and I was also at Canyon High School for the back to school night, and I was so excited to see all the parents on the campus, and it was just exciting and energetic, and everybody was so excited to see the new science building. I also checked out the El Medina pool, and we visited a girls' softball game for a minute to see the new bleachers. I want to thank, we had some school visits as well. I went to visit Panorama with Principal Rosselli. Trustee Erickson and I visited the new principal, Corey Acosta, at Anaheim Hills Elementary School. He attended OUSD as a child, so he is now coming back full circle, so it's kind of cool. Trustee Erickson and I visited Chapman Hills Elementary School, and I just would say it's a positive environment there, and I was just so excited to see all the improvements that's been made. Let's see. I went to the Reading Springs IB, the International Baccalaureate celebration. It's recognized as an IB school, so that's exciting with Trustee Moffitt. We had a WASP visit at El Medina. Board members were requested to be present to meet the WASP team and introduce ourselves. I also, went to Canyon Rim Elementary School to see their latest bulletin board for Hispanic Heritage Month. Trustee Erickson and Trustee Page joined me, and we'd like to thank all the volunteers there for putting up this beautiful bulletin board, and we had the opportunity to talk to some parents. Lastly, we had the honor of having California State Senator Dave Min visit our TK classroom at Serrano and Jordan Academy of Language and Computer Science. Justin Massey, the CSBA, which is the California School Board Association regional rep for over 3 years, also attended. His role is liaison between the schools and CSBA, and he helped to facilitate the meeting between Senator Min and our school. And they both wanted to hear the district's challenges and successes in implementing the TK program. Senator Min sits on the Education Budget Committee, so he will be voting on these kind of issues. And so that concludes my report. Oh, one other thing. I just want to say, give a shout out to the OUSD Learning Links. I know people participated and they said it's been awesome. So that's like a program that kids can stop into, pre-K, right? Pre-K, kids 0 to 3, they can stop in and they can attend class, basically. So that's awesome. I think Trustee's Page went to one, right? Yeah. So thank you. And that concludes my report. Okay, we'll go on to item C, board recognition of students, staff, and community. Do we have any board members who want to say anything, or? Trustee Ramsey?
Yeah, so I watched the El Medina varsity water polo match. They're going for CIF. They only need one more game, as far as from what I know. And so I just wanted to wish them good luck. Hope they win their game. I think they played Canyon this last week, and I think Canyon beat them. But I know with the new pool, and it's a beautiful area and facility. It was a lot of fun. It was the day that we had the thunder, and so they had to empty the pool and postpone the game and everything. But they came back and played really strong, and so I just wanted to wish them good luck and hope they make it to CIF.
Thank you. Trustee Moffitt?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to recognize the hard work that's going on at El Medina High School, and I don't know if their WASP team has finished their did they finish? Did they give their report today?
They were done yesterday, yeah.
They finished yesterday? Well, having been on several WASP teams, both on the school side and also being on teams coming to be visiting a validation team, I know how hard and intensive and really sort of stressful it is to do all that, particularly in that short amount of time. But I also know that it's a great opportunity for the school to really get a lot out of it. And I remember going through those processes and thinking this is a lot like cleaning out all your closets in your house all at the same time. Because you think, oh my gosh, it's so much work. But you see what's in there that's good, that you have to keep, that you really value. And then you see what things are in there that maybe aren't as important and don't really contribute to your life or your wardrobe or whatever. And it's a lot of work, but if you go into it with the attitude that this is going to have a positive effect on our school and on our teaching and learning, then it's a very positive thing. So congratulations to the Elmo staff, the Elmo leadership, and also thanks to the WASC visiting staff for all of the effort that goes into that. And then also I want to just credit the whole idea of our elected official coming to see how it's working out with a program like Transitional Kindergarten that has received a lot of state funding, and to come and visit to see, is this working? You know, is this going to address the needs that we hope that it will, and how's it working out? I think that that's what we should do as school board members. When we have policies or decisions that we make, we should check back after their implementation to see if they're having the desired effect. And I think that that's what that elected official was doing, and I congratulate him, and particularly congratulate all of our wonderful teachers who are carrying out this delightful program. When you go into those classrooms, you just start smiling from ear to ear because they're so cute and they're doing things that they love, and the teachers are so competent and they're so organized, but in a playful way that you wouldn't even, you know, the organization isn't what you think of. You just think of the fun that they're all having when you're there, but it's very intentional and it's very well thought out. So I'm proud of our people, and I'm proud of our elected officials when they come and they do their job well. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Moffitt. Do I have any other board members who would like to say anything? Okay, Trustee Page.
So, President Yamasaki, you are right. It's been a while since the last time we recognized our students and staff and community. A couple months ago, we had a grand opening at San Diego Canyon College, and it was a great partnership between our district and the college to be able to host an exhibit talking about our local history. And we had the Ramirez family there to be able to open the exhibit of Mendez v. Westminster, which is a court case in California that desegregated schools. And something that was important that stood out to me in that grand opening was the Ramirez brothers shared an anecdote about what their experience was like way back when in the 50s when they were going to school at Orange High. And they commented on how when they were in school in the 50s, they had a high school teacher that told them why even bother with education and to look around. There were so many fruit fields, and that eventually they would become fruit pickers. So they commented to each other as they were coming to this exhibit opening about, look around, do you see any fruit trees anymore? And they pointed out and told all the students in the audience to focus on education and to really determine on what you want to do and however you define success. So I thought that was really telling about someone who had seen what the city of Orange has looked like for so many decades. And then in addition to that, I also visited or attended the Villa Park and Orange High School game, and that was a lot of fun, especially having, it was a homecoming game, and it also all the feeder schools were in attendance. So it was great to see a lot of elementary school families attending a high school football game and be able to share that experience.
Thank you. Trustee Erickson?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, it has been a while. So we do have a lot of visits. I know, as Trustee Moffitt said, we try to get out to the schools so that we can actually see if the programs that we're implementing and the budgets that we're approving are actually working in the way that that we foresee them working, and it also gives us an opportunity to talk to teachers, staff, students, administrators to find out what kind of supports that they need. So it's nice to be on those campuses and to see that. Regarding the Santiago Canyon College exhibit that Trustee Page was talking about, in case you don't know, it's a partnership between the Museum of Teaching and Learning, Santiago Canyon College, and Orange Unified School District. And this was a really cool thing that we all put together so that this is a museum that talks about this Mendez versus Westminster case, which was decided 7 years, I believe, before Brown versus Board of Education desegregated schools. It was a huge case, but it came directly out of our neighborhood, out of El Medina, and Lorenzo Ramirez is a local hometown hero. But this really brings to life, this exhibit. They have artifacts from classrooms and things like that that we as a district are sending our students on field trips there. So our 5th grade, right? Is that right? And then I know some other kids have gone too, some high schoolers have gone. So our 5th graders are able to take a bus over to Santiago Canyon College, visit the college, check it out, and really see this incredible exhibit that comes to life and really hopefully inspires them and teaches them something about our local history. So it's pretty exciting. I was at El Medina a lot in the last month. I was able to see Ruby, our student board member over there, when I visited for the Frontline Thrift. Do you want to tell us anything about that?
So the Frontline Thrift was an event put on by our journalism department, where we collected a bunch of donated clothes and were able to sell them for, I think the lowest price was $1. And it was a super great event for all of our students, and it got a lot of great turnout, and it was super fun. I got a really nice tie.
It is very cool. It was very popular, and they did them all last year. They do sell everything for $1, but what is really cool about it is they're really teaching a business model, actually, because the journalism class does this as a business, and everything is sold for $1 unless it's a formal, and then I think it's $2. But they're actually running this business, and they're paying for their publications for it. So for a year, they basically can cover their newspapers and magazine publications from what they've raised from these thrift stores. And then on top of that, it's repurposing, recycling, reusing things. So it's just a really, really, really cool project. The other thing that I was at is the Digital Marketing Collaborative, DMC. It's a project-based, career-focused group at El Medina High School. It's a program, and part of that program is they have mentorship, and I've been part of that mentorship program for the last, I think, 5 years. And so with Rotary, we have a once-a-month meeting. It's called, I forget what it's called, but anyway, it's dinner with them. It's a mentor meals, that's what we called it. And so we go and we meet with them, and last night was our first one. But what was fun is seeing the El Medina Library and how much work has been done there, and it looks beautiful. It's all brand new furniture. Y'all did a great job with that renovation. It just looks really good. It's really clean. And we can actually move the tables now, because before they weighed about 500 pounds. So it's very nice. And that library is actually the Lorenzo Ramirez Library and has its own set of artifacts from the Lorenzo Ramirez case. So kind of went full circle there. And I know that each month, one of our student board members does a presentation. I know we're going to hear about Canyon tonight, and looking forward to that, Madison, and looking forward to all of your presentations coming up. So thank you.
Okay. Trustee Ledesma? No? Ortega? All right. Moving on, I want to give the opportunity to our students to have an opportunity to say something if you'd like. No pressure, but you can.
Just relax.
Yeah. Does anyone want to say anything? Report on ASB or any kind of happenings or homecoming or experience in the rain and moving into the gym?
Well, we just got recognized on, I don't know if you ever heard of OC Student Sections on Instagram, but basically they recognize ASBs and just like student sections in Orange County for football games. And we just won Student Section of the Week. We were nominated by them, by the board of OC Student Sections. So I thought that was a big deal because they said that we've really improved this year with our student sections at sports games. So yeah.
Can you say for the public what school?
What?
Can you say for the public what school?
Oh, Canyon High School.
Okay.
Guys. Sorry.
Thank you, Madison. Anybody else? Okay. Ruby, right? No? Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Along with being the the student board representative, I'm also the ASB Elections Commissioner. And this week and next week we have our voter registration drive, which myself and a couple of friends have put a lot of effort into and getting the word out about voter registration. We've been visiting classrooms, our economics classes and our government classes, as well as next week we're going to be visiting our U.S. history classes to talk about midterm elections, pre-registering to vote and registering to vote, eligibility, why it's important to vote, all of that good stuff. And we have our tables at lunch in the quad and in front of the office so that it can give students an opportunity to either pick up a registration card or vote online or register to vote online. And we've gotten some pretty good turnout at the tables, so that's been pretty exciting.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about the pre-registration so kids can register early or?
Yeah, so if you're 16 or 17, you can pre-register to vote, which doesn't allow you to vote early, but it allows you, as soon as you turn 18, to be able to have your voting in place, essentially, and be automatically enrolled to vote, which is super important because if you aren't aware of the voting deadline, you want to make sure that there's no obstacles in the way of you voting.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome program. Okay, next. Diego?
Hello. I just wanted to celebrate something that's recently been going on at Orange High. So I'm the ASB ambassador for Orange High's ASB team. And part of my duty as ambassador is to kind of improve or maintain public relations with kind of the community surrounding Orange City and everything in between. And so one of my responsibilities is to go to the Orange City Council meetings every month. And I went to the previous one, which was about a week ago. And I kind of gave just kind of a brief speech, just kind of updating the city on everything Orange High related, kind of offering my services as kind of as in local government and that kind of stuff. And I thought it went pretty well. And we even got some feedback recently, me and my advisor, after we attended one of the people on the board gave us sort of an offering about an opportunity in local government. They're willing to offer, they're willing to change the city council by having a sort of positions for youth representation as a result of my outreach. And they're offering positions for both Orange and El Medina. I'm not sure if your advisor got the word yet, but I should have disclosed that with you prior. But yeah, so with that in mind, El Medina and Orange High School now have a place on the Orange High City Council, and I think that's a pretty good development for youth representation in the community.
That's awesome.
And then could I also highlight one more thing?
Sure.
So there was a kind of, it's not as exciting as the other one, but there's kind of a concern I'd like to share regarding some of my students on campus. So as you know, something we often take for granted is internet access, and something, especially after the onset of the pandemic, everything had to shift online, and we had to be in kind of this virtual education. And we take for granted internet, and we kind of take it as a necessity nowadays, and especially nowadays, a lot of schools use it as kind of almost a primary mode of education, using for assignments on Google Classroom and that kind of thing. But I think a few students at Orange have kind of reached out to me, one of my friends in particular, about how I could be misinformed, and please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I know that apparently the district has kind of removed the opportunity to get free hotspots as of lately, because one of my friends reached out to me. He comes from a household that isn't quite as fortunate enough to have convenient internet, so he often relied on these hotspots for a while. And recently, when one of his hotspots wasn't working as intended, he reached out to the district and he got a response saying that they weren't necessarily offering them anymore. So I know it's just one person, but I feel like this isn't really kind of like a single issue. I feel like there are probably other students who have a similar issue, because as much as internet is kind of commonplace nowadays, it's not necessarily something that everyone will always have. So I just wanted to kind of voice that concern for some of especially my friend in particular, because it's kind of hindering his ability to be a successful student. And I think that we should kind of mitigate that and kind of resolve that issue so that he can have the equal opportunity that everyone else can have. So if anything,
I'm sure we can take care of that. We'll go to your principal and we'll resolve that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Next, Hope.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have much to say, especially after that. I will say recently we did have our homecoming, which did go really well. We had like over 600 kids come, which is like double what we had last year. And it was in the gym for the first time in like 6 years, which is like, it's kind of what you see in the movies and you kind of see it in person, which was really exciting for me. And we did receive a lot of good feedback from the students about that. So it was just one successful event that we had recently that I thought went really well.
Thank you. Well, we really appreciate all your input. And so no pressure in the future, but anytime you want to say anything, just, raise your hand and just let us know. Thank you. And we're happy to have you here. Okay, going on to item D, State of the School Report. And we have Madison Saloom from Kenyon High School.
Is this on? Okay. Good evening, President Yamasaki, members of the board, Superintendent Hansen, and families of OUSD. My name is Madison Saloom, and I am the school board representative from Canyon High School. This evening, I'll be explaining and displaying the positive impact our new science building and quad has had on our students. I came to this school right when the construction began for the new building. I remember the cram nutrition, lunches, dances, and events that happened in our old quad. As a school, we had to limit the amount of students we could have at our dances and events due to them having to be in such a small space. It used to be such a scramble to have to get a ticket for the dances. Now that we have the new quad, we have been able to have dances with unlimited numbers and so much more space. At our Warped Welcome Dance in September, we were able to fit over 1,000 people, the most we have ever had into our new quad. The new quad has not only created more space, but it has allowed for students to participate in events and get involved. Also, having a new quad was a game changer for our Club Carnival. If you have not heard of Club Carnival at Canyon, it is where all the clubs at Canyon get to display their clubs for the students to walk around and learn about. Many clubs have games, food, and other goodies, which makes a lot of students participate. It is something that students look forward to having each semester. Before the new quad, the Club Carnival used to be in our old quad. Not as many students used to participate because it would be so crowded and hard to move around in such a small space. Now that we have been able to use our new quad, we have been able to have so much more space for students and clubs to be organized. This space for students has allowed them to join and participate in the fun of Club Carnival. And it allowed for all of us Comanches to really come together and enjoy not only the variety of clubs, but the space of our new area. The new quad has not only improved our school events, but it also has allowed for new traditions to be made. This past month, we had an intramural ping pong tournament with participation from students and teachers in our new quad. Our commissioners of athletics, Jenna and Austin, were able to get so many students and teachers to participate in the tournament. We had the tournaments throughout the week during lunch, and it was something all students at Canyon look forward to having each class. Many students were able to come and watch the ping pong matches, and it was something that everyone was talking about in and out of school. Having a new quad allowed us to have a great amount of space for this. If we had not had it, the ping pong tournament would not have been as big or as successful. Yes, you're probably thinking, why is she talking about the quad so much when the whole point of the remodel was to have a new building? Well, now it's time to talk about the new building. Being in our new science labs has allowed students to do more in-depth labs and research. In my biology class last year, my classmates and I got to do a DNA lab where we got to code DNA with food coloring. It was something that I will remember forever because I was able to come together with my classmates and do a lab that real scientists do, and it would not have been possible if we had not had our amazing new science classrooms. With the bigger classrooms and new technology, this lab was not only fun, but super efficient with our new resources. We had new tables and desks that were incredibly efficient in making our labs easy, successful, and of course, educational. Our new building has also made learning easier. Having TVs on both sides of the classrooms has allowed for students to actually see the screen rather than having to look at an old dainty projection from across the room. Now taking notes and watching videos is at a higher quality than ever before, and school has become more fun. The new classrooms have not only been incredibly impactful, but so has our new administration in the new building. Before the new building, it was hard to get in and out of the counseling offices and administration office. You'd have to wait outside our old building or be crammed in small spaces when waiting inside. Now that we have our new offices, students have been able to be more in touch with their counselors, which is incredibly important, especially at this age, and is not such a burden to go into the counseling offices. Also, our administration offices and counseling offices are now separated, which creates less student traffic. Last but certainly not least, our new building has given Canyon a brand new identity. Before our new facility, Canyon used to be known for being old and not the prettiest. Now my friends from other schools constantly talk about how nice and fancy our school is now that we have had our new building to beautify our campus. I have always been extremely proud of my school, but our new facilities have created such pride and love for what my school is on the outside, not just what's on the inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Is there a video? Okay.
Hi, my name is Austin Duarte. This new building is more accessible because of our new counseling office.
Hi, my name is Lona Salem, and I like the new building because the classrooms are way larger and we have a lot of TVs to see on both sides.
Hi, I'm Ben Nguyen, and I like the new building because there's a lot more workspace for us to conduct research and do experiments with our peers.
Hi everyone, I'm at Club Carnival in the new quad. Look how pretty and turned out this is! Woo! Hi everyone, I'm here at work in the new quad, and we have fed over 4,000 people. Look how much fun this is! Woo! Check out 32 quad! So much fun! Woo!
You want to introduce your visitors here, your fan club?
Yes, this is Canyon High School's ASB. Half of them are at the football game against El Medina right now, but here are the ones that decided to come here, so thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And Principal Abercrombie is here, and I believe our Steve Smith, our student advisor for ASB. Thank you. Thank you all for a wonderful presentation. I want to go back to high school now. That looks like way too much fun.
That's what I was thinking. Can we
Thank
come?
you.
But they probably wouldn't like that.
Well, I will just say my daughter went to Canyon. Well, my kids, all three of them went to Canyon, but I don't even dare show them that video because they're going to be like so jealous. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. That was a lot of fun and very heartwarming because so glad to see kids using it and having fun in it in school. So, all right. We'll go on to item F, Community Partnership Recognition, Orange Elks Lodge. Oh, I'm so sorry. Board recognition, you've got the edge, Employee of the Month Recognition Program. Dr. Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Yamasaki. Tonight we celebrate the You've Got the Edge Employee of the Month program for October. Certificated and classified employees are eligible, and an award is given each month during the school year to an employee who exemplifies one or more of the district core values of integrity, equity, respect, and excellence. This month we celebrate two honorees, Jose Pania, Campus Security from Canyon High School, and Elizabeth Morlett, mental health counselor from Parkside Education Center, both of them have been selected for this honor. So thank you so much for being here this evening. So welcome, and if you could join Ms. Yamasaki at the podium.
Welcome, Jose and Elizabeth. Both Jose and Elizabeth go above and beyond to serve the staff and students of the Orange Unified School District in ways that reflect the core values of OUSD's EDGE. Our first recipient is Elizabeth Morlett, Parkside Education Center Principal Julie Lucas had this to say about Elizabeth. Liz embodies both the D and G from the OUSD District EDGE vision. Liz Morlett works with students at Parkside and especially the Aspire program to support academic, social, emotional, mental health, behavioral needs. She is an excellent communicator with teachers, administration, parents, outside resource agencies to provide a highly important connection between families and the school. She assists parents with mental health support for some of our most vulnerable and high-need students. She is tireless in her efforts to ensure the students at Parkside connect and are supported, to all avenues of genuine wellness. Liz is creative with her solutions in assisting students, empathetic, and positive with staff and parents. She is sought after from all stakeholders here at Parkside and is highly valuable and wonderful OUSD employee. We want to thank Elizabeth for representing OUSD's EDGE values. She will be awarded with the customized EDGE tumbler, right here, with her name engraved, a gift card from Schools First, and a frame Employee of the Month certificate. Congratulations, Elizabeth. The Board of Education thanks you for your dedication and devotion to the Orange Unified School District. Thank you very much. Thank you. Interesting. Thank you.
And her principal's also here, Miss Julie Lucas, and I believe some family members, possibly.
Yeah, my husband. Okay. Do you want to introduce your husband? Oh, yes. This is my husband. Robert. Robert. Okay. Hi, Robert.
Would you like them to be in the picture? Because you, yeah.
Come on up. And principal? Yes. Okay. You can come up.
We also get some pretty flowers.
Congratulations. Okay, our next employee of the month is Jose Pinella. Pinella? I didn't know that was his last name. Jose could not be in attendance tonight, so Principal Craig Abercrombie will be accepting his award. So, do you want to, Canyon High School Assistant Principal Greg Smith had this to say about Jose. Jose is the backbone of student well-being at Canyon High School. Jose consistently puts the welfare and success of students and staff first so that Canyon continues to serve OUSD and Anaheim Hills with pride. Jose Pinella is a great man who is critical to making Canyon the great place it is for students. We want to thank Jose for representing OUSD's EDGE values. He will be awarded with a customized EDGE tumbler with his name engraved, a gift card from Schools First, and a framed Employee of the Month certificate. So congratulations, Jose, you're out there. The Board of Education thanks you for your dedication and devotion to the Orange Unified School District. Do you want to say anything?
It's an honor to accept this for Jose. He decided that his daughter's wedding this weekend was a little more pressing than being here this evening. So I want to thank him and congratulate him on his daughter's wedding.
And I remember Jose from when my kids were there, so he's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then just one last update. It's 21-14 Elmo, almost halftime. So if anybody...
Thank you. All right. Okay. Item 4F, Community Partnership Recognition, Orange Elks Lodge number 1475 and Orange Emblem Club number 418. Kath.
Thank you, President Yamasaki. Tonight we celebrate our community partnership recognition to honor the valuable partnerships that exist between community organizations and the district. As described in the district's strategic plan under Focus Area 2.0, Dedicated and Engaged Communication, the district seeks to build and maintain strong educational, university, business, and community partnerships and to cultivate deep-rooted connections with stakeholders. Once a quarter, at least one community partner will be recognized by the Board of Education. Organizations are to be nominated based on their contributions in assisting the district in advancing one or more of the following 4 focus areas: excellence in academics and leadership, dedicated and engaged communication, genuine wellness and safety, and efficient utilization of fiscal capital. Tonight, this quarter, we will be honoring Orange Elks, number 1475, and Orange Emblem Club, number 418, for this honor. We have tonight representing Orange Elks with these great titles that I just love: Exalted Ruler, Rosalind Peggins; Leading Knight, Janine Storm; Public Relations Chair, Bill Neeson; and Drug Awareness and Youth Activities Chair, Mike Cash. And for Orange Emblem Club, tonight we have President John Russo and Vice President Claudia Castillo. All of you, please come forward to the podium to be recognized by the Orange Unified School District Board.
Good, how are you? All right, I recognize
Some of you can
faces
go on
here.
the other side of the podium. Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody. I recognize some of our happy faces here. On behalf of the Orange Unified School District Board of Education, we want to present Orange Elks number 1475 and Orange Emblem Club number 418 with the OUSD EDGE Community Partnership Recognition. Both organizations have provided a myriad of opportunities that have enhanced and enriched the academic and social-emotional success of our students. Your collaboration with our schools has not only enabled students and their families access to needed school supplies, toiletries, and groceries. You have also assisted the district with developing our students to be more civically minded and engaged, as well as supporting our campaign to keep our students aware of the negative impacts of drug and alcohol use. In addition, your generous support over the years has enabled us to host a multitude of events for our classified, certificated, and leadership staff that include recognition ceremonies and luncheons. We are grateful for your dedication and contributions that exemplify our district core values of integrity, equity, respect, and excellence. We congratulate you once again for this well-deserved honor. So here's the one for Orange Emblem Club.
Thank you.
And here's the one for Orangeville Club. So do you want to stand in front of the podium so we can get a picture?
And if you all want to move up here and take pictures, you're more than welcome to, the family members.
No. One for me here. Thank you. That was like 10. Thank you. No problem.
All right, I'm going to give Miss Page. All right. Thank you for being here tonight. That was fun. All right, we're going to go on to item G, Proclamation, Week of the School Administrator, and this time Trustee Page is going to help me out.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask our administrators to come up, please.
And as they leave, thank you to our partners, the Elks and the Emblem Club. Thank you so much. We appreciate your
Thank you.
collaboration with us.
Okay, Orange Unified School District Board of Education Proclamation, Week of the School Administrator. Whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and the more than 6 million students they serve, whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education, and whereas the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership posts, superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, special education, and adult education leaders, curriculum and assessment leaders, school business officials, classified educational leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators. And whereas providing quality service for student success is paramount for the profession, and whereas most school administrators began their careers as teachers, the average administrator has served in public education for more than a decade. Most of California's superintendents have served in education for more than 20 years. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And whereas public schools operate with, lean management systems across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries, including transportation, food service, manufacturing, utilities, construction, publishing, and public administration. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, fellow administrators, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, college and universities, community and faith-based organizations, elected officials, and district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And whereas research shows great schools are led by great principals and great districts are led by great superintendents, these site leaders are supported by extensive administrative networks throughout the state. And whereas the state of California has declared the second full week of October as the week of the school administrator, and whereas the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. Now, therefore, by it resolved by the Orange Unified School District Board of Education that all our school leaders be commended for the contributions they make to ensure successful student achievement on this day. Congratulations. I know. Kevin's coming out, so he's going to make a step out there. Yes.
So we have Principal Sarah Pelly from Fletcher and Misty Brunasso from California. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our administrators.
And how about a shout out to Dr. Hanson?
Yes.
Woohoo!
And our team. Yeah. We're grateful for all of you. All right. And we'll go on to item H. International Walk to School Month and Walk to School Day. October is International Walk to School Month. At this time, I would like to invite Edilberto Angel, Executive Director of Student and Community Services, to the podium. He's already there to talk about the importance of this month.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President Yamasaki, our esteemed Board of Education, Dr. Hanson, and our esteemed Executive Cabinet. My name is Eddie Angel, and I'm the Executive Director of Student Community Services. International Walk to School Month takes place in October. It's an international month that raises awareness about the positive ways walking to school helps our children and communities. Our goal is to encourage more adults and children to walk to school together to raise awareness about the importance of teaching our children safe walking behaviors, such as how to cross streets and how to select safe routes to school. How walking benefits our physical and social emotional well-being. Parents and children spending quality time and active time together doing the world's simplest exercise, that is walking. How we, alongside our community partners, can take specific steps to create more walkable communities. Educational Services, with the support of the Board of Education, encourages school and community participation during Walk to School Month. Please enjoy this short video as it highlights our incredible community, school staff, and students walking to school together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angel, and I'd also like to thank our law enforcement partners in our community who went out and supported our students that were walking to school, ensuring that they were following, crossing streets and following the safety practices.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to item 5, approval of minutes. Item 5A is approval of minutes from September 8th, 2022 board meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Trustee Erickson, do I second?
Second.
Trustee Moffitt, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is approved, 7-0. We'll go on to item 5B, approval of minutes from the September 29th, 2022 work study session. Can I get a motion, please? Somebody?
I'll move it.
Trustee Erickson, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Rumsey, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. We'll go on to item 6, public comments. Trustee Page, will you please read the guidelines?
Yes. Members of the audience may address the Board of Education on agenda items during consideration of that item and non-agenda items that are within the board's subject matter and jurisdiction. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 20 minutes per topic. Persons wishing to speak should submit a blue card prior to the meeting. Non-agenda items may neither be acted upon nor discussed by the board, but will be responded to by either telephone, mail, or at a subsequent meeting. And we have 3 non-agenda public comments. Would you like those first?
Sure.
Okay. Britt S. Nope.
Britt.
Courtney S. Okay. Brad Graham.
Thank you, Board, for listening to me today. I want to start out by saying that it's exciting to hear the students and how they're getting to enjoy the new facilities. I know the board has worked super hard to get that done, and the community has worked super hard to get that done, and that's awesome. So I'm going to read my statement tonight just to make sure I don't miss anything. It says, for context, I want to talk about when 1.5 years ago, I stood before this board and suggested that the kids were statistically at zero risk of bad effects from COVID. At the time, the California Department of Public Health was suggesting that in order to return to indoor sports, we'd have to have 1 infection per 100,000 population. I suggested that that this was never going to happen, and that it was an arbitrary COVID-only risk assessment that did not take into account the impact that not going back to sports was going to have on our kids. So I worked with a group called Let Them Play. We worked with the state of California. We got that resolved. Today, the CDC added to the immunization list a the COVID immunization, or if we can call it a vaccination. It's really a therapeutic, but we'll call it a vaccination for what they call it. The statement today said that they had no jurisdiction to mandate this vaccination on kids or anybody else. They suggested for five and older. When we're going through the stuff before with the sports, and I addressed the board before, almost 100% the board has said, we're going to go with 100% with what the California Department of Public Health says or what the CDC says. Without fault, you guys have done that. And I understand in the beginning why you would do that, because there was little information and you didn't know, what was going on. I would suggest that now we have much more information and that we can make more informed decisions on whether we really should force a vaccination on our kids, right? Whether we should make it a mandatory thing. So with school board elections coming up, here's my ask of the people on the school board, and also for the people that are running against them. I'd ask them the same thing, is that I think it's important that you guys take a position on this, because you've always acted on exactly what the CDC and the California Department of Public Health says. Will you do the same in this situation? Will you say that mandatory vaccinations in order to attend school? Because I see you shaking your head. No, I agree with you. We shouldn't do that. But I think some on the board here might lean that direction. And so I would like to, before this election, so we can decide who we really want to vote for, I think we should hear from you. We should hear a statement that says, this is how I feel about this. Here's what the CDC says. Here's where I'm leaning. Does that make sense? Right? Is that fair? I mean, is that fair? Right? With non-public comments, we're supposed to get an email or a phone call back. I mean, will I get a phone call from somebody?
I can't speak on behalf of their election campaigns. I'm staff, so that would be up to them to respond to you. And
Okay.
you'd have to email them each individually and ask for their.
Okay, will I get a response, Andrea, if I email you?
As long as you don't text me at 5 in the morning.
Okay. All right, thank you, guys.
I can make a comment as far as the CDC announcement that does not apply to school districts at this time. There is no, just so the public knows, there is no mandate. The CDC announced that they were adding the COVID-19 vaccine to the list of childhood vaccinations, but it's not mandated at this time, just so the public is aware that that is nothing that Orange Unified will be doing. It's just they added it to their list. Like you said, they've authorized it as a child vaccine. It's not mandatory yet.
Said that it's up to the local districts in the state to decide whether it's mandated. They specifically said that. So
Yeah, I don't know about what they in the state of California, vaccines have gone through a legislative process. Just want to make sure, because I've said this before, that there's a legislative process to include immunizations on school attendance. So, you know, we don't know what's mandated and what isn't. It's just that the CDC has authorized it as on the list of childhood vaccines. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that's nothing we're doing right now. Okay, I could put that in my newsletter. That's just fact, that it's nothing authorized right now. We as school districts would never require the COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other public comments?
The other public comments are for consent items.
Okay. And so procedurally, we'll listen to those before the consent items? Or do we want to ask them to speak now?
Don't we have action items to address first?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we typically, when
Right, we
go to
usually do,
consent,
but we
yeah.
can also, as a board, you know, decide if we want to deviate. But we'll go on to action item 7A, propose revisions to board policies and bylaws, second reading and approval. Dr. Hanson?
Thank you, Madam President. These board policies were brought forth at the September board meeting as a first reading, and we have a second reading and approval tonight. And so this is an opportunity for the Board of Education to ask any questions of myself and staff that you might have, or additional concerns or issues you'd like to discuss regarding the board policies, and they are up for action this evening.
Okay. Do I have any questions or anyone?
I do,
Trustee
Madam President.
Moffitt?
Thank you. I just want to highlight, actually, one of our board bylaws that we are going to be acting on tonight, and that is the one that it concerns student board members. And tonight has been a great example, I think, thanks to our board president, Mrs. Yamasaki, and others who have made special efforts to highlight your comments and to welcome your comments. And I just want to read one of the parts of this student board member board policy. It says that a student board member shall be recognized at board meetings as a full member, shall receive all materials and that are presented to other board members except those related to closed sessions, and may participate in questioning witnesses and discussing issues. So I just wanted to highlight that because you did a wonderful job today of bringing up things that are important to your fellow students and reporting on news of your campuses, and that's really wonderful. But don't think that your role has to stop there. If you have some questions that you would like to ask and participate in discussion of the whole board, you may do that, and we look forward to that. We welcome all of your comments. And so I'm glad that we had a chance to kind of highlight the role of the student board member tonight. Excuse me. And so that's the only comment that I have on that board policy. But I have another comment actually on the one board policy 5141.21A. And that's the policy on administering medication and monitoring health conditions.
And that's actually action item B,
Oh, okay.
because I'm bringing it for a first, second, because of the emergency need for that. I'm bringing it.
Exactly. And for that reason, I was going to ask some
Separate.
questions. Are we going to have a little presentation about that?
I was going to talk about it, but I have it separate because it is on there without initial
Exactly.
review.
It's like a first and a second reading together. Okay, I'll just wait until that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions regarding 7A?
I wanted to talk about the civility piece. So I did prepare something to say. I don't I don't support this one. I understand that we need to protect civility at our meetings and all across our campuses. But I think that this policy is an overreach and is unnecessary. Trustee Ledesma mentioned at our last meeting that this is where the gavel comes in. So the board president and administrators throughout our district are tasked to enforce standards of civility and possess the authority. They already possess the authority to address a disruptive situation. So my concern is that the broad scope of this policy seems what it seems to provide. It could have the potential of tempering good speech that is promoting a personal belief that is relevant to a situation, either here or on a school campus. We need to protect a person's right to speak. I struggle with words that are in this policy like polite, acceptance, embracing. Now, on the face, these terms are definitely appropriate, but they are too broad and they have the potential of stopping relevant speech and tempering the exercise of free speech. And our goal cannot be to protect feelings. Our administrators are already empowered to deal with bullying and harassment. This policy doesn't effectuate any change to the current abilities to our teachers, staff, and board members. Instead, it could silence relevant, necessary, and beneficial speech. The board president and administrators throughout our district are tasked to enforce the standards of civility and already possess this authority. And that's why I don't support this particular policy.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to comment?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Along the same lines as what Ms. Rumsey was putting forward is the whole civility, as I brought up last time, is giving persons the right to come up and speak to their local representatives. And sometimes have there been heated discussions? Absolutely. And I have been through many of those in my experience on this board. I have been attacked. I can't tell you how many times, I would say countless times. And so as a local representative, you have to accept that. And here we're putting a policy in place, to direct people in how they're supposed to act. It's their right to act, not physically trying to harm someone, because that is not what I'm in favor of. But if someone is very passionate in their speech, which, again, many have been very passionate towards me, and accusing me of everything up and down from A to Z. And as I said, it's like almost violating their right under the Constitution to speak. And here we're going to go down this road to do this. One of the other things too that I would bring up is that here it's almost trying to limit their ability to communicate. But then also, one of the things that I've noticed and others have noticed as well is we don't provide access to board meetings as archived as we do minutes. And for what reason, I don't know of why we had stopped doing that, where people cannot go back and look at board meetings when they're archived. But even archived, meaning are they edited or are they given full version? Because we should not be editing any video that is being broadcasted as we are sitting here live right now for any rhyme, reason, or anything, because we're showing the public that we want to be open. And the public can go back and view a board meeting, a video, what have you. Maybe they missed it and they want to go back, but now they can't go back because we don't archive them. And I pose a question to this board and to staff, why, number one, we don't do that. And number two, again, against this policy, the board president has the authority to stop every board meeting. I've done that several times as board president over the years. And you have that right to do that, and you can be effective in doing that. And so coming up with this policy, it's like going against the Constitution of freedom of speech. Again, people have passionate speeches. That's okay. Again, nobody, I would say, on this board condones any physical threatening harms towards anyone. But the passion people have, that's the passion. It just depends on the subject or the subject matter of what's being presented. So as I expressed my concerns last meeting, I'm not in favor of this at all. And I have other concerns with some of the other policies, but since we're speaking on this one at this juncture.
Thank you, Trustee Ortega. As for your matter regarding the recordings, I agree that we need full transparency, and I suggest that we bring it up to our superintendent and staff and figure out what we can do in the future. So, but since that's not on the agenda, we really shouldn't be discussing that, so we'll ask to maybe do a little bit of a...
We can bring a proposal on how we could effectively do that.
Okay.
To the board.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else?
I do.
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do understand the idea that, you know, some of the greatest movements for justice have involved a lot of passion. I mean, people fighting for civil rights, people doing things like that and coming here and arguing their positions regarding whether it's vaccines or whatever it is. I agree. We should not be putting any limits on that in terms of substance, in terms of content. Never. We're not, you know, we're not limiting the content. And I don't read this policy as anything directed at us. I don't think this is necessarily about protecting ourselves. I think this is really just a restatement of the fact that we do need to engage in civil discussion about things, because that's actually what promotes more discussion when there's civility involved. When there's a lot of anger and passion and incivility, people tend to shut up and sit down because they either are afraid or they just don't want to deal with it. So I think as a board, we're struggling with the idea that we agree people should be able to passionately express themselves, but also make sure that we are not veering into the bullying, harassment, intimidation, hate speech, that kind of thing, because we know that that is also out there because we are dealing with that. So I think, you know, the only sentence I kind of had a little bit of an issue with is civil behavior is polite, courteous, and reasonable behavior, which includes integrity, honesty, acceptance. While all of that is true, I don't know that that's necessarily, you know, what's polite speech to me may be something completely different to you. And so that may be subjective in that regard. But I do think that this particular policy, absent that sort of subjective paragraph, really does just restate what is consistent with the law and what's consistent with free speech, because it says the board understands the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech. However, the board expects that all speech and expression will comport with the norms of civil behavior on district grounds and in district facilities, and that we're to model that. And I think that since we, you know, have a district that has, you know, 27,000 children in it, that we should be modeling that kind of behavior, and we should be behaving in a polite and courteous manner, and we should run our meetings in a way that promotes that as well. So while I understand that push and pull, and you know, maybe we need to tinker with it a little bit more so that it doesn't have any impact on First Amendment rights, because I agree that that is really important, and I agree that passionate speech may appear to somebody as impolite when really that's just passion. So I'm not really sure how to deal with it, to be honest with you, because I 100% believe that we need to to have civility. We need to make sure there is not bullying. We need to make sure there is inclusion. We need to make sure that people that are generally marginalized are not intimidated to speak. And that's hugely important, because the people that are used to having their voices heard are never intimidated. I mean, they just come up and say whatever they want, but there's a lot of people that do feel that intimidation. And I think more about people in the audience, not really about us, but about somebody sitting there and thinking, I don't want to say anything because all these people are going to jump on me and attack me. And we've seen that happen. We saw it happen in our board meetings last year. So I don't know how we deal with that, to be honest with you.
I think a civility policy actually encourages people to come speak.
Madam President, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to make a suggestion, perhaps that we can sit on this one and then review it once again and have every board member put in what they are willing to have in there and what they are willing to not have in there. And then that way we can come to some sort of consensus and we can work together in putting together a policy that we all can agree on.
Well, let me, I'm going to differ here. I think generally speaking, civility is the norm with the public. I think this is unnecessary policy. In fact, if I was out there in the public and knew that this board had a civility policy, what have you, I'd be insulted. I think it's an insulting policy to have to tell grown adults, oh, we don't trust you in how you're going to address. So take this, our civility badge.
Well, I think you were in the room when a gentleman came up here and was threatening and using profane words, right?
Right, and that's why we have a few law enforcement or security. That's why we can immediately adjourn the meeting for a moment of time. That's when leadership comes in and takes charge. But I do think this is an unnecessary policy, and I think it's insulting to the public.
Dr. Hansen, is this a policy that came from the school board members, California School Board's recommended policy?
Yes, it's one of their recommended policies, but of course the board can amend it as see fit.
So it's not uncommon for school boards to have a civility policy?
No, it's not uncommon, but it's new for OUSD.
Right.
I'm not always going to march to other people's drum.
Well, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying
You're looking for validation, and I don't think that's a validating body necessarily.
Can I just address one thing? That's exactly what I'm talking about, is if you're going to just rely on having security put down that kind of marginally violent behavior. No, I mean, if you have people that are acting out in such a way, it's extremely intimidating to anybody who is in a position that is not traditionally a powerful position. And that includes our students. That includes people that might come to our meetings and not feel safe. If we're just going to rely on security to take care of the issue, that is, or the gavel for that matter, I do think that we need to have expectations. And that when people come to our meeting, they are expected to act in a way that comports with common decency. And because we do have minors in the room and we do have people that might be terribly intimidated by that, these are the people we need to hear from. We need to hear from the people that normally feel intimidated. And so you actually just convinced me that I think, yeah, we probably do need to then.
No.
Well, I've seen it so that I've talked to parents and other people who wanted to come to board meetings, but they were afraid. They were afraid. They were intimidated and they were afraid. So I think having a civility policy will actually encourage free speech.
I don't think it's not going to change our meetings. We will still have the passion at these meetings. When you're talking about people's children and how you're working with them in the school system, that's, no matter what, you're going to have passion, you're going to have some heated debate.
Well, passion is not in here as something that they can't have.
I'm just telling you. I think we're better control of the meetings, that's all.
Well, if I
I've been doing this for a long time, so I've been, very rarely have I felt threatened in any way. And I think most people, even students, have felt the same way, because, I mean, students have seen us, discuss things. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm done.
It was hate speech was referenced, and that concerns me because that pendulum or bar keeps moving, and so what is hate speech to one person is not to another, or maybe an opinion that somebody has about something is hate speech to another person. And that's the scary part of this. Civility and being appropriate and professional, absolutely, we walk in the door and that's what we're all expecting. So I appreciate your agreement in some of the words, polite, acceptance, embracing. But if we were to take that out and amend this, I still kind of stand behind this policy doesn't effectuate any change. That this isn't going to change anything. It's, as a teacher, my rules in my classroom, one of my rules is be mature, be smart. It's very broad. And I can point to all kinds of behavior and say, that's not mature, that's not smart.
But you have a rule.
True, but I'm in a classroom with children, and I'm developing their character, and so.
Well, what we can do is we can read this policy, because maybe the public is not understanding what the policy is, and then we can go paragraph by paragraph to see what people will agree with and what people won't. What are your thoughts?
I think that the least that needs to happen is that some words need to be changed or taken out. And that any hint of
polite,
not following along with a trend, someone coming in and not having the same ideologies or opinions as a trend isn't going to be taken as.
Why don't we read it paragraph by paragraph, and then we can go from there? Is that something that we can do? Okay.
Well, a real quick question is, what I'm remembering from last board meeting when this was brought forward is that I heard from several of my colleagues stating that they had gone to a session at CSBA a year ago, and now we're addressing it now. So why wasn't this brought forward in January or February or March?
I think that.
And so now it's right before in October that we're bringing this forward, September and October. So I kind of that's where I kind of have the challenges with it, is from hearing the comments from a year ago, and we're just addressing this now, when we had a lot of discussions early in the year with folks coming up and providing their comments on blue cards. So that's where I call this into question. And I'm just going to say it, is this something right before an election? Or this policy is just not needed. I mean, in all the years we've been here, we've closed the meeting a couple times and that was it, and then we continued. You're basing this off of an individual that approached the dais, and it was one. Now you're trying to say we're going to create a policy for one versus the many that have come up and spoken. And I addressed this with you last time, is I've been addressed up and down for everything. And I didn't see any civility in them. And so,
Hence, we need a civility policy?
No, I didn't.
You're saying you don't see civility in the speakers? Is that what you were saying?
When they're approaching me. And so, again, it's just, you're an elected official. You have to be able to take whatever's being mentioned towards you, period. I mean, they're here to address us because of their kids, the issues in schools, the things that we're putting forward in schools right now. There's a lot of questions about what's going on in education right now. And so all of this, I don't see the need for it. It's either you control the meeting or you don't. I mean, that's what it gets down to. Again, we've been here long enough and we've served as board president many times to be able to control the meetings. So I mean, you can go sentence by sentence. I'm still against it. So however you want to move forward with it. I mean, that's just my druthers. We're waiting a year after the CSBA conference to bring this forward versus you bringing it forward in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I mean, we had many months, or you had many months to bring it forward.
Well,
may I?
Can I address that? Because
Go ahead.
Just as a routine in our offices, we do board policies twice a year. So that would be our regular, like, we don't just bring policies. So it was brought to our attention probably about 6 months ago. And we didn't bring policies forward in terms of the staff. We bring them all together like this. We don't bring them one at a time. So I think part of that is just our internal process, how it got brought forward. The date was nobody delaying this. It was more the staff's process of doing the policies as we just added it in like the bulk, how we update them twice a year.
Sure, but a board member brought this policy forward is what I'm getting at. It's not staff that
but
brought
the timing is not the issue with the board member. It's the issue with our internal process. Just wanted to clarify that.
Madam President, may I just say, it's been stated in this discussion that we don't need a statement on civility because we should just enforce. We should just enforce, whether it be with law enforcement or whether it be with the gavel or whether it be with the judgment of whoever is the board president at the time. And enforcement, I think, is the last thing, If you need to get to enforcement because other modes of expressing a way of behaving don't work, then I think you've kind of gone a long ways. I think it's fair, and I think it's only right, whether it's your classroom organization or whether it's the organization and the agreements of a school board meeting or a city council meeting or any kind of meeting, that that everybody has a common and known set of expectations. And when that is available, then perhaps it doesn't have to get to the gavel or the law enforcement person. Perhaps it's just known that this is the way to, this is the expectation. And it's no different than, than any place where you go. You wouldn't act threatening to people in a movie theater. You wouldn't go into an office building and, make people feel unsafe. I think that, and this also says that that staff and board members should be models of the way that they would hope that everyone acts in a board meeting. So I think this is only fair. If you have expectations, they shouldn't just reside in the mind of whoever has the gavel. They should be well-known and, broadly agreed upon and broadly shared. Just like you do in your classroom. You put your
but the line is not strict, what you're saying, but it broadly agreed upon. The last comment that you just said is going to be different for everybody.
Well, just like SMART and...
So at the end, who's making that decision that it's gone too far? Who makes that decision?
Well, I think
this has gone too far.
Yeah, I think that some of those things are obvious, and we've seen it when they're We've seen it, not a lot, but we've seen it. And if you feel threatened yourself, if other people are sort of stiffening in their seats, I mean, I don't think it's hard to recognize. And I'm just making the case that if you have an expected way of comporting yourself, I think it's only right to share that with the people who might come, you know, rather than to say, oh boy, in my mind, that's not, you know, acceptable. So because I have the gavel, I'm going to gavel it down. I think that, you know, and if it takes more conversation among us as board members, I think that we could have, if we don't want to have a line-by-line discussion now, maybe we could have a discussion between now and the next meeting, giving input through the superintendent's office on things that, that we would like to see amended, added, taken out, so that we can find a statement that represents us all, that we can all live with. Because I think that we all have a stake in this. And the whole point of this is to have a meeting that is safe, have a meeting that is conducted in such a way that we can get our business done. And that's all stated in here. That's all stated in here. So I think that we can talk about perhaps polite, perhaps courteous. The phrase that includes the word embracing is to continue on with that phrase, embracing varying and diverse viewpoints. I think we want to do that. I think we want to embrace various and diverse viewpoints.
Well, but you're interpreting embracing different than I am, because
this is a
embracing to
verb.
me is accepting.
No, it means allowing. It means
Again,
allowing.
it would be a different interpretation of the word.
Well, maybe we could say welcoming
Allowing.
varying and diverse viewpoints, or encouraging varying and diverse viewpoints. I think they're sort of synonyms.
But this is, yeah.
I think we can have a discussion sort of by giving information to the superintendent and then wordsmithing it in that kind of a way. I don't know. That's all I want to say.
So we can do it here, or we can take it home and then line out what you would accept and what you wouldn't accept and give it to Dr. Hansen, and we'll go from there. And we'll try to come up with something that is close to.
So then you would take this off? Okay.
We can do that. I think Trustee Page had something to say.
I had a question for Dr. Hansen. So the board policies, or the one that we're specifically talking about, it applies to the entire district, not just the board and the board meetings?
It applies to, it even states, you know, staff, everyone interacting within the school district setting. So students, staff, parents, administrators, everyone. Yeah, it applies to everyone within the organization and how we treat one another. So that's the goal, is to just create that environment.
May I? Just as a reminder, I mean, as a board, we only operate on policies. I mean, policies and law. But our board policies are a statement of what we stand for as a district and a board. And so when you, for instance, do use your gavel when something is going wrong at a meeting, we have a board policy to back it up. And if it's repetitive in the sense that it repeats law, like behavior by students and staff that's discriminatory, harassing, or intimidating, including sexual harassment, bullying, and/or hate violence. It's hate violence, not hate speech, or behavior that is in any other way unlawful. Okay, yeah, that is a repetition of the law and of other policies, but I think emphasizing that particular one is important. I mean, that should be something that we have a zero tolerance for. And I do think if we have a board policy that does repeat those positive things, it's okay. I can take out a few of these words and feel comfortable with it. But I do think it's really clear that it says, welcoming and encouraging participation, input, and feedback through stakeholder engagement, promptly responding to concerns, and embracing varying and diverse viewpoints. I think we all agree with that. I mean, we know we don't all agree on everything, and that's okay, as long as we can express it in a way that's not, intimidating or offensive or bullying or, any of those other things. So, I mean, that's just my thought on it.
That was it?
Okay, so I think the recommendation then is to pull this and get input and bring it back later. Each board member, we can send a hard copy again in the Friday bulletin update. And it's just a one-page, you can mark out and give suggestions, give it to Karen, and we'll try and come up with another version to bring back next month.
Okay.
Is that?
Well, I encourage every board member to give your input to, and students, if you have any input on the civility policy, feel free to.
We'll get you a copy too.
Yeah. Do you have any input now, or I don't know if you have it in front of you, but.
Hope?
I will say, I do see where Chris is coming from, where it is good to have free speech and to be able to be passionate, but it can easily get out of control. Obviously I haven't been through enough meetings to be able to be get used to being feeling threatened by certain comments, but I can see the concern where it can get out of control pretty easily, because passion and anger can lead to a lot of comments that can cause a lot of concerns for board members.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add on a little bit something about the wording that was talked about. A lot of this wording seems very similar to the wording that we have in our high school rules for profanity and hate speech and general conduct around campus. And I know that walking into a classroom, if I didn't have that expectation set before I walked in, that hate speech wasn't allowed and that profanity wasn't allowed, that I know that there would be students who would get out of hand. And I feel like setting that expectation for students has proven on a small scale to be effective. And I feel like for adults, it should be even more effective because, as we said before, students are maturing and learning their character, right? Adults are supposed to already know their character. So I feel like that's going to be a lot more easily applicable for adults. And I know as a student board member, I didn't have to, or since this is only my second meeting, I haven't had to go through any of the harassment that happened, I know, a lot last year. But I'm very close with the last student board member, and I remember her talking about her stories, and it was slightly discouraging to even go for the position in the first place, knowing that could be something that I was faced with, that conflict could be something that I was faced with. And I wouldn't want future board members or anybody on the board currently to have to feel that and not be able to speak our minds as well. I think that it would stifle our free speech as much as it hypothetically would stifle an outside person's free speech.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your input. Okay, so I think I hear consensus to put this policy on hold, and we'll give you some input, and then we'll bring it back next month. Is that fine with everybody? Great, thank you. All right, so does someone want to move 7A without board policy BP 1313A?
I still have a question on a couple other ones, though.
Okay.
In reference to the charter schools, haven't we already updated these prior? It just seems like every policy review, we keep coming back to charter schools. I know you guys are all against charter schools, I get it, and the policy reflects that. And so it seems like we keep coming around the so-called revolving door when it comes to charter schools. And the question is that when it comes to anonymous complaints, The charter schools, then
There's
the
several.
charter school, well, they're both 420.4 and .41. So it would be, I believe it's the oversight.
They're-
And so
I think they
the
both have to do
anonymous
with oversight.
complaint, so I can be Mr. Anonymous and file a complaint and take it down the road and potentially close down the charter school? That's what I'm asking.
I can have Mr. Gonzalez address it, but just in general, these are laws that were updated, and so these are not staff-suggested recommendations. We're not against charter schools. These are legal citations that have been updated and that we're required to put in policies. But Mr. Gonzalez can address, this is an update to the uniform complaint procedure.
Yeah, I think you just did. It was some change in some legislation, and I think the frequency of those updates is coming because legislation has been frequent as well. So whenever there's those changes, then we'll make the corresponding changes in our policy. So that's the reason, and those are the areas that, as you mentioned, are in bold there. But it was no additional edits by staff beyond what was the recommended based on legislation.
So as far as the anonymous complaint, what does that mean?
It basically means
I know
that,
what the generalized meaning, but what's
Yeah.
the meaning behind? How are you going to move forward?
well, the uniform complaint procedure is the standard procedure for filing complaints, and it has been updated in law that anonymous complaints can be received if they meet a certain criteria. So the charter school board policy had to be updated to reflect that as well. So it's also applies to all public schools. It's not just the charter school.
So somebody can make some egregious anonymous complaint, and then that's under the uniform complaint policy.
Only if it meets certain criteria.
And what's the
Oftentimes, we don't even look into them if they don't meet certain criteria, and it depends on the complaint. We have received anonymous complaints before that we look into, but they don't rise to the level of a formal UCP. This is just saying that they, I believe the word is may in here, right?
Correct, May.
May be filed. So, just,
Okay.
yeah, it just allows someone to do that if it's something that may be life-threatening, a safety that, that we need to definitely look into. And the charter school would be in charge of that. It would not be the district's responsibility.
It is the complaint to the charter school.
Is this, so this is basically just the same school, the same rule applies to charter schools that applies to us, and that's all it is, right? So we can have anonymous complaints about our district, charter schools have the same rules.
Yes, and the charter schools generally manage their own complaint process.
Right, okay.
As far as emergency schedules, I don't have that policy in front of me. Yeah, I don't have my electronics, so. It's the 3516.5.
Got mine, do you want to look through?
That's,
These are the papers.
yeah, I don't have it with me, so.
That's fine, I'll-
Yeah, yeah,
One,
yeah. You have it?
I've got
The,
it.
the emergency schedules? I don't have that one. So can you just give an overview of what that is? That's all.
It basically has to do, it's a business policy. It has to do with apportionment based on school closures for reduction in attendance, and that could be for any reason. It could be for fires. It could be for any kind of safety issue. And they're just stating that the board must ensure that the students still complete the minimum number of instructional minutes, which includes possibly getting an affidavit approval for apportionment credit for that closure. And they reference independent study as a way to handle any kind of immediate closure. So it has to do with apportionment and how to ensure that students receive instructional minutes.
So is that similar to what we did when we initially shut down schools during COVID?
We did distance learning, and this actually is more stringent because it's going back to independent study rules.
Yeah, so this is more aligned to what were we required to do when we had the fires. So
Right.
this is not an emergency related to COVID. This is an emergency because of safety.
Right, like the fires we had in the east.
Earthquakes, anything that would, that's what this policy is related to.
And so we still have to provide education services one way or another, even during those situations.
Well, there's requirements of the state that when we have an emergency situation that we can file for a waiver, which is the 13A form.
Right.
So under conditions that we can't serve kids because of safety, that there's a requirement that we have to follow. And what this policy identifies or reiterates is the policies that we have to comply with the state.
Just like we've done previous years.
Correct. But it's
Okay.
been updated for the current guidelines of the state.
Right, okay, thank you. And then we're updating on meetings and notices, so 9320?
Yes.
And so, do you mind just giving an overview? Oh, there it is.
So this was just to include the teleconference.
teleconferencing?
Yes, yes, because there were some, this is just reinforcing that the teleconference location is permitted by the government code to deliberate, that we have to follow that process now when we had a period of time when we could all do virtual. So it's just reinstating that within our meeting notifications. That's the only change to this policy. It's exactly the same as it's always been.
So basically, if you're teleconferencing, you just have to post the agenda, sit in the lobby, and to the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now do I have a motion without board policy 1313?
I'll move it.
I'll second. Was that? Oh, trustee Page, sorry, it sounded like it came from over there. All those in favor? Any discussion? Any further discussion?
Just real quick on the discussion, is there a way, because in hearing what you said, is that there's 2 times a year that we do this? I mean, but there's an abundance of policies that we come forward with, and is there a way, to break this up, if you will, in such a way, instead of hammering us with, I don't know, what is it?
Well, we do have 2
4,
readings, right?
6.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. There were more this time around because there were a lot of changes in law. Sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less, depending on what's going on in terms of the legislature.
And to be fair, usually these come in the summertime when the amount of board business is less. So that's kind of.
We're a little bit late with everything, with the legislature.
That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Yeah.
Because, everything gets, pretty much legislatively speaking, January 1 of each year. So with that said, as Kathy just mentioned, kind of splitting it up maybe over the summer a little bit instead of
That's the usual.
kind of hitting us hard,
That's the usual.
with all of these at once. And
We
then-
usually do it twice a year, so we can
Well, it's a pretty
see-
impactful agenda is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at, coupled with, basically, I don't know, was it 20, 18, 21 policies or whatever, for second reading and approval. So again, I just would ask if staff can just kind of break these up throughout the year in such a way that instead of beating us over the head and saying, okay, we're going to, approve 21 policies or whatever it is.
I believe
right
we've
away.
been getting these in our Friday letters for the last 3 months, I think. But I think we're voting on all of them today.
Oh, we had a first and a second reading. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. But we are not approving 1313, you know that.
I know.
Okay. All right.
You're not going to approve any of them?
Nope.
Oh.
All right. So motion passes 6-1. 6-1. And we'll bring back 1313 at the next meeting. Okay. All right, we'll go on to item 7B. Proposed revisions to board policy and bylaws, first and second reading and approval. Dr. Hanson?
Thank you. We have board policy 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions. As you're aware, I've provided the board with a lot of information regarding the situation with fentanyl, and you've probably read a lot of the articles in the paper that there have been some incidents in LAUSD and across the nation, and we set up a meeting with Orange Police Department and Orange Fire, had an extensive conversation with them after some of the events that occurred in LAUSD. Many districts started to organize and realize that having naloxone or Narcan on school campuses would be a very good idea to administer in the event of an emergency. So this update is being brought forward at this time out of the sense of urgency that we've already started training. We've had, I think, 2 trainings so far. We have another one tomorrow. We brought in all of our administrators and our nurses, and we're going to different groups right now, training them on the administration and how to see the signs of an overdose, whether it's a student or an adult or anybody on campus. And we would have this available in the nurse's office. We've worked with Orange PD. They've explained that it's not there's no harmful effects of administering it. It is a nasal, like a inhaler that's administered, that's an anti-opioid, and it immediately reverses the overdose by fentanyl very quickly. And we're just, we're trying to be proactive. We certainly hope this never happens, but we want to have this on every single school site. You may have heard recently that libraries, churches, many public areas, the homeless shelters, lots of areas are starting to have their staff have this readily available in the event that something does happen in their facility. And we just want to make sure our staff and students are safe. So this policy adjusts the language to allow the administration of Narcan with training and support for our staff in order to do so.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I have a question and a comment. And Dr. Hanson, maybe you said this already. Who among our staff, what job descriptions are being trained?
So far, we've trained administrators and nurses. We will branch it out to other office staff that may be, like at a small elementary school, might have something occur. Are there others that are planned immediately?
And those were our main ones right now. We're going to, like you said, expand it out. Health clerks would be one. And then, of course, we're going to have our parent groups. And then we do want to do something with our teachers. Not so much with the administration, but the whole piece of understanding the drug and the impact and the signs to look for.
Exactly. And I noted this was in our Friday packets about the November 1st training that's going to be given by the Orange County Sheriff's Regional Training Academy in Tustin on November 1st, 9 to 12. And I plan to attend that. It's for college administrators, school board members, middle and high school principals, PTAs, public safety personnel, school resource officers, district attorneys and public defenders, probation officers, superior court, treatment teams. And so this sounds like everybody, just about everybody.
Yeah.
And I have a question. You don't have to answer it right now, but you can if you know the answer. What is the what's the time frame of emergency if an overdose is suspected or detected?
I think it's very quickly, but it
within
depends.
minutes.
Yeah, it's within minutes, yeah. It's very quick, and that's why it's really needed on the campuses in case something does occur.
Exactly.
So the emergency personnel from Orange Fire, they go through all the, how you can tell an individual might be in overdose state, and they talk about the amount of time that is needed, because emergency responders usually take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So they are really encouraging this. All our school resource officers do have that, but they're not at every school.
They're not everywhere.
Yeah, so this is really important just to have for safety, because it is a matter of a few minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And helpful to know that there's no harmful effect for if you administer it not perfectly, or you think it's an overdose but it isn't, or whatever.
No, there's absolutely no harmful effects of it. It's purely acting upon the opioid. Sorry?
Counteracts it.
Yeah,
Counteracts
it's a
the
counteract
opioid.
to the opioid, and it really, if you're not, using an opioid, it really has no effect. It does nothing.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to, because this is a first reading and a second reading and an approval at the same time, I just wanted to know if we were going to have a presentation or anything like that, or just this.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I
Dr.
hadn't planned on a presentation because I've provided so many articles and information, and we did a big thing in my newsletter that we sent out. But if you would like one with more details about the progress of implementation, because one of the things that's happened now is we've put in our order, and this is all free to schools, is that everyone's ordering right now because it's free from the Department of Public Health, so it's going to take a couple of weeks. So maybe it would be nice to give a presentation to the board about the level of implementation, how many people have been trained, and
I think it would help public information and public awareness as well.
Sure.
We can also invite the board when we do the presentation for the parents and community,
Yeah,
Okay, great.
because we are in the midst of planning that.
perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Trustee Moffett, for bringing up that seminar. I got that too, and I already signed up to attend as well, so it would be great if we have board members attend. I also just want to mention that I attended the Orange Fire Station opening and had the opportunity to speak to the fire chief himself. And I thanked him for working with our district on this particular item. And he did tell me that there are cases of fentanyl in Orange County. And he also reiterated that the counter drug that they're using has no side effects. So he reassured us of that. So thank you.
I've got a question about this policy. There's a statement in the policy that requests the district's permission for students to self-administer a medication or self-monitor and/or self-test for medical condition. Isn't this a liability issue that we need to be careful about? It's in the third paragraph.
On the first page?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, who's going to be, can we kind of tighten this up towards just, how do we figure out who can administer this?
Well, it's based on the parent or guardian who would give, this is all based, we don't administer a medication unless the parent or guardian gives us permission.
But is that stated in the,
Yeah, it's at the very first line that it says that parents or guardians would have to approve that. We don't do it unless the parents let us.
well, it says, it states, with the student's authorized healthcare provider's approval, request the district's permission for students to self-administer.
It says allowing parents or guardians to administer medication to their child at school. It's parents and guardians, or they designate another individual to do it on their behalf. The parents or guardians have to give permission. We do not administer, or a child doesn't at school. It comes from the parent or guardian, and then they can designate another individual on their behalf, and with the student's health care provider, the pediatrician.
Oh, and.
Yeah. So it's all the parent or guardian. We don't have anything that allows anybody but the parent or guardian to administer medication.
And Dr. Hansen, that has always been in our policy. So if you go down to the last paragraph on the first page, it's always been in this policy. It's just been moved up in terms of making more sense. So it's in that last paragraph that's striked out.
Yeah, let me see right here.
So if a student needs to take medication, they can go to the office and take the medication, or they can take it themselves?
Nope.
Is that correct?
It's right here. I'm sorry. I was just, I'm sorry, Ms.
If a student needs to take medication, the various options are go to the office and have the nurse give them the medication, correct? Or can they be in possession of their own medication on campus?
No, my understanding is all those medications are held in the nurse's office, and they are provided to the child or the teenager. You know, the student has to come in, check in the office, and get it from the nurse
So
or health clerk.
to self-administer a medication, I understand self-monitor or self-test. I understand that. To self-administer a medication.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something like an insulin injection. Could be a
That's what I was
possibility of-
thinking. Yeah.
Possibility of an
Okay.
example for it.
Okay. Okay.
So the policy read before, upon written request by the parent, guardian, and with the approval of
The student's healthcare.
We scratched that out. Why did we do that?
I think it just got moved somewhere else. I'm looking for it.
I mean, I think that,
I think because it just says it in a different way. It's not in writing, but it's with the parent
No, but
approval. But we could
we
put
would-
that back in.
that would mean that we would have record of it on file, that,
Yeah, it's authorized by the parent, and we do get written requests. We do get written permission for all medications, so
but authorized and written request is, I think it's, I think.
you want to
it-
add
it
that
ti-
back. We
I-
can leave that in.
I think
That's-
it tightens it up better. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's inferred in paragraph 3, but we can actually add some more language in that. So where it says, the third paragraph, fourth sentence down, and with the student's authorized healthcare provider's approval and parents, or we can add something in that
He
line.
wants written
upon,
request.
yeah, upon written request.
Right, we could do that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll put that in.
All right.
We'll add that in.
I think the operational part of that whole paragraph is the second line where it says, "The superintendent or designee shall develop protocols, which shall include options for blah, 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 blah." So what it's directing is the superintendent or the superintendent's designee to develop those protocols, which, you know,
We would have written requests, but we can add it in here if it's,
yeah.
But
if
it
it's
just
more
says,
explicit. Yeah.
it just says options for allowing versus directly getting the parent's consent versus the option.
Yeah, and we What line are you on right now?
Well, I was on number 2, which shall include, going off Ms. Moffett, superintendent designee shall develop protocols which shall include options for allowing parents, guardians to administer medication to their child at school.
Right, so as opposed to our staff?
Shall include
Yeah.
parent, guardians, however.
Written consent.
Written consent.
If you
Well,
go
this is
down
them
further,
actually
it said
doing the
written consent.
administration. I mean, they don't have to.
I know, but the word is option. That's like, these
Well,
are
they're
just
talking about
options for
various
consideration.
different situations, one of
So
them being.
basically, we're just saying we want parents' consent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll put the written consent. But the option is the parent can come to school and give it to their child, or they can designate an individual, or with the student's pediatrician, they can, some students who have asthma medication, they're teenagers, they can take it themselves. So the parent gives us exactly how they want it to do it, and they have their options to choose with their healthcare provider how they'd like to do that. But we can add the written part in here explicitly, but my understanding is all of our school nurses have it in writing. Correct, Ms. Corella?
Correct.
Well, any
That's my
kind of
understanding.
prescription is always going to be in writing. You're always going to have the medical provider in writing for sure. And so then this is just the
Yeah, but we can add it in if it adds a layer of confidence in the process. Okay?
Again, what I would be, besides the policy, and I understand it because of the need, I mean, it even shifted years ago to where now patrol officers are having to carry Narcan because they're usually there first on site prior to the medics arriving. Because of all the overdoses that have been occurring, unfortunately. But one of the things I really haven't heard out of this as the policy goes forward is, what are we doing at the school sites to address the students? What type of assemblies are we providing? What type of information are we providing about the seriousness of fentanyl? This is no joke. This is some serious stuff. And these kids of today, they don't take it serious. That this little ballpoint right here, this little end of the lead pencil will kill you immediately. It's no mess around. And again, as I said last meeting, is we're approaching, Halloween and everyone's putting out candies and you're seeing the news media with, Skittle packets and just other colorization of these type of candies, which is laced with fentanyl. I mean, it's the dangerous part that even to the touch, even those in law enforcement, you have to wear gloves because then they're getting affected by it if they touch it because it's just so potent. So, I mean, I understand the policy and can move forward. I've understood Narcan in all my days way back in law enforcement. But it's what are we doing to approach this at the site levels? What type of education, are we providing to the students? Are we doing assemblies? Are we providing this information to parents in multiple languages? Whatever it happens to be. Those are the things associated with this. What are we doing to approach this? Because aside from all the other stuff that's going on in education, this is pretty high level or pretty highly needed to educate. Besides people saying, hey, turn on the news media, which, bring people in. So anyway, I just want to hear, what are we doing at the sites?
So Student and Community Services, right now, we're in the midst of designing some more informational meetings for the sites. We wanted to get this done first, and then our next step, like I said, is to work with the parents and then design some things for the students at the sites. The high schools have always had those different assemblies that, address the various drugs, the whole thing with the vaping and that, and then we need to bring this in. But we're still in the midst of how we're going to bring this down to the campuses at the elementary level still. Because we do need to address it, but we need to do that alongside with our parents, because our parent groups are also very specific in making sure that we do it in collaboration with them, so it's something that is age appropriate for students.
Okay, I mean,
I'd like to call to your attention that it's Red Ribbon Week next week, too. So then I hope that
The Orange Police Department has volunteered to do training for us with students. So I know that some of the secondary schools are inviting them in already to talk about, the severity of the drug and how prevalent it is. And so I know that some of those trainings are being arranged at the school sites. But in terms of a district-wide initiative, those are, our first priority is, of course, getting this in place and making sure our staff is trained, but also recognizing, if a student is in that situation and what to do. But no, certainly we've been training, it's Red Ribbon Week this week, and, we'll continue to improve our training, and that could be part of what we come back and share with the board in terms of the implementation and our training plans.
Okay.
Are we ready for a motion? Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second. Was that, okay.
Trustee
Rumsey, Trustee Moffitt seconded. Moffitt, sorry. I combined your names. It's getting late. Moffitt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 7-0. Okay, item 7C, bid number S2223-001, Villa Park High School, Phase 2.
Yes, Madam President, I'll introduce the item. Over the past 3 months, we've been providing the board updates on Phase 2 of Measure S. The first bid award for Phase 2 is the bid that you have in front of you for Villa Park. We had 3 bidders, 2 that were deemed responsive, 1 that was deemed non-responsive. So we're recommending tonight that the board approve Pinner Construction as the most responsive bidder and also the lowest bidder on this project. And Mr. Harvey's here if you have any questions. But I think over the last couple of months, we've covered a lot of information with you. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or Mr. Harvey on this bid.
Do we have any questions?
Which school did Pinner do before? I know Pinner is one of our...
So, good evening. Pinner did Orange High School Phase 1.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the original infrastructure, but the actual science building.
Got it.
Right. No other questions? Okay, we will have a vote. Someone want to make a motion? Anyone?
I'll move it.
Trustee Ortega, move.
I'll second.
Trustee Erickson, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Item 7D, tentative agreement between the Orange Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 67, for the July 1st, 2022 through July 30th, 2025 successor negotiations.
Madam President, we have agency negotiator John Rajic to present on this item.
Hi, Mr. Rajic.
Good evening. Tonight, before the governing board is the ratification of the tentative agreement for a successor collective bargaining agreement with the classified bargaining unit, that's CSEA number 67. Now, the costs of this tentative agreement have been tabulated. They've been forwarded to the county. The county has assessed the costs of this agreement over this year and the next 2 years, and the county has approved the agreement. This agreement is fiscally prudent, and unless the board has any questions, it is recommended that the governing board approve the tentative agreement between the Orange Unified School District and CSEA number 67 for a new successor collective bargaining agreement.
Do I have any questions? Does someone want to move it?
I'll move it.
Trustee Erickson moves.
Second.
Trustee Moffitt, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, item 8, information on student calendar 2023-2024 and 2024-2025.
Mr. Gonzalez will be presenting this item.
I know that's a mouthful. We'll see how I do in making this presentation. Board President Yamasaki, members of the board, Dr. Hanson, Cabinet, and community. Before the board for information this evening is the proposed 2023-24 and 24-25 student calendar. The district practice is to maintain 3 approved student calendars, 1 for the current year plus 2 additional years. Currently, there are board-approved calendars for the current year, and the 2 additional calendars have been created for approval by the board to maintain that current practice. This proposed student calendar, or both calendars, have been constructed by the district's student calendar committee using the building blocks from past and current board-approved student calendars. The committee is comprised of representatives from elementary, middle, high school, charter schools, district departments such as transportation and special education, as well as each of our 2 employee associations. The work of the committee has resulted in a recommendation for student calendars for board consideration for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. The parameters used in the construction of the proposed student calendars originally came about through the work of the District Student Calendar Committee in consolidating the previous T-Track and S-Track calendars into one modified T-Track calendar before, when we had year-round education. These are consistent with the design of the past and current board-approved student calendars, which include a 180-day student instructional year, an 80-day first semester ending in the 3rd instructional week after Thanksgiving break, a 100-day second semester, a 1-week recess at Thanksgiving, 3 full instructional weeks between Thanksgiving and winter break, a 3-week recess at winter break, a 1-week recess for spring break, school ending on the Thursday of either the first or the second full week in June, depending on when we start, and school beginning 1.5 to 2.5 weeks before Labor Day. The proposed student calendar meets the state requirements for the number of school days and instructional minutes for the school year. The calendar has been reviewed by the District Student Calendar Committee and Executive Cabinet. As to the next steps, it is planned to have the draft student calendars be presented to the Board of Education for action at a subsequent board meeting currently scheduled for November. Should you have any questions or clarifications before that time, I'm happy to provide information either through responses through weekly updates or by way of the superintendent's office.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? No?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I remember from years in the past, long presentations about how these calendars are developed. It looks like easy, right? It's not easy.
No.
It's so hard. It's so hard. So I just appreciate what you do, and all of the committee members that, provide input, and staff members that provide input. Thank you very much. This is a very, very big task, important one, and very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And it seems like it's, kind of easy when we bring them forward. But like you said, there's a lot of discussion that happens during those meetings, a lot of different considerations that, of course, a lot of people bring up about calendars. So.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Nope.
Thank you.
We don't need to vote on this one, right? It's information item?
Information.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll go to consent items, and I believe you have some blue cards, right?
Okay. We do have some public comments for consent items. Would you like them before the item or all the comments now?
Let's do the comments now because we usually move everything at once.
All right, first up, we have Madison M. for agenda item 13V.
Hi, my name is Madison, and I looked into this the last couple days, and I kind of saw the backers of Sown to Grow, and I didn't know exactly who these companies were or where they came from. It seems like a pretty invasive test or exam, SEL surveys daily, and I wanted to know who's collecting this data. I also wanted to see if it's being shared with the above entities for profit. There's companies shown on there like Digital Promise, Imagine K-12, New Schools, the National Science Foundation, Common Sense Education. It's just kind of ambiguous to me. I also want to know why we're giving teachers who are not licensed and credentialed as counselors to work in emotional and mental health with these kids. It doesn't seem like something that they should have to do or they should be given this kind of responsibility. So I think that's kind of the most of what it just kind of concerned me. It didn't seem like something that was in the realm of these teachers or in their wheelhouse. So yes, we want to support these students, but is it really something that the teacher should be doing or someone that's licensed or professional? So what will happen to the students' personal data? Is it going to be shared? How is it going to be handled? And is it going to be sold? Those are my questions. Thank you.
A clarification of the item number. I thought you said 13B.
V.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Our next speaker is Britt S. for consent item 13V. Maybe not here. Next one, hold on, next couple are also Britt. Madison M. for 13GG.
I'm back. Hi. My name is Madison again. So I kind of did some research on Dr. Becky Bailey. She is a pioneer in social emotional learning. She is the author and creator of the Conscious Discipline program and book. OUSD has implemented Dr. Bailey's Conscious Discipline social emotional learning program as low as TK students. This training will further target our younger students. Dr. Bailey embraces additional woke ideologies as published on her site, including the Conscious Discipline's commitment to advancement of racial equity, supporting racial equity, essential next steps for conscious discipline, raising anti-racist kids, the equity in Ibram versus, or by Kendi, SEL equity. These are all Marxist-rooted constructs, and the author is a Marxist apologist, says so on their site. Bailey promotes the notion of school family, which is a castle-based SEL. Again, it's CRT, it's Marxism-rooted pedagogy. And so I'm wondering, are we providing an education for our OUSD kids, or are we training them to be, quite frankly, Marxists? So I'm wondering, why are we embracing the school family concept when we should be partnering with families, not creating necessarily these families? I get it, there's families that aren't involved with their kids' lives. But I feel like that should be our focus first, is on partnering with families, not taking the responsibilities away from families. I also feel like it's not the teacher's job to do this. They have so much going on in their classrooms. This is just one more thing that they're having to deal with. And their teacher's entire profession is being outsourced to tech companies like this, calling it professional development, but I'd like to see exactly what that entails. I think that's all for me.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
Yes. Hold on, 3 more cards. Courtney S. for 13EE. No? Another Courtney. And then Britt, and then we're out of cards.
Okay.
Then we're here.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to, well, consent items are acted upon by one motion. However, any such item can be considered separately at a board member's request and will be acted upon following approval of the consent item. Do I have a motion to move everything, or does anyone want to pull an item?
I would like to pull 13GG.
Okay.
I would like to pull a few.
Okay.
12C is in Charlie, 13 Victor, 13 double E, Echo Echo, and 13 HH, Hotel Hotel.
Okay, so I have 5 items to be pulled for consideration.
And the MM,
13 MM. 13 MM.
Is it 13 mm? Yes, he says.
yes.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to read the items pulled again? Okay, 13GG, 12C, 13V, as in Victor, 13EE, 13HH, and 13MM.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would anyone like to move the rest of the items?
I'll move the remaining items.
All right.
I'll second.
Trustee Erickson moves. Trustee Page seconds. Any further discussion?
All those second?
Pardon?
Did you have a second?
Yeah. Okay. Trustee Page. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Items, consent items move, except for the items that I mentioned earlier. All right, we'll take them one at a time. Let's go to 13,
12C.
12C.
Okay, I just have a couple questions, but first and foremost, I never thought I would say this, but it is freezing in here. Jeez, you can hang meat.
hot.
I
You're
know, but
always
you can
hot.
hang meat in this place. That's why my fingers are freezing right now. Anyway, I appreciate it because it is warm outside, you know. They're freezing in the east and we're 90 degrees here in the west, so get some of that, hopefully cool down 20 degrees tomorrow. The question is with the MOU at Chapman University for the placement of where, kind of the details of where these individual students are going to be placed with students.
Yes, thank you for that question, Mr. Ortega. So the board policy 4122 provides for the superintendent or designee, myself in this case, to enter into agreements with colleges and universities to allow for student teachers and interns to have supervised teaching experiences and observations. And when students are brought forward to us, they work through our Ed Services office, namely Rayanne Diddle, who works to try to provide the best placement for the students based on what their needs are and what resources we have in terms of teachers, psychologists, speech therapists, or counselors for the placement of these students. And the purpose is for them to learn from our own staff here. And in turn, we hope that it provides better candidates for us in consideration for employment at a later time.
So wherever these students, I keep thinking of our own students, the college students, let me put it that way, do the parents receive some sort of information as to these college students being on our campuses, being internshipped or, something to that degree?
Yeah, typically when there's a student teacher in a classroom, they're introduced to the parents, and a lot of times they sit alongside with the teachers for parent conferences, for back to school nights, for all the events, because they're trying to learn how to become a teacher. But they are supervised by our staff, and we have contracts with each of the universities, and obviously, lengthy contracts that are reviewed by our business department and our contract experts to make sure that those are, have the protections we need for both the university and the district.
I'm sure, again, you have the master teacher with the student teacher, if, that's the, after they've graduated and, things of that nature. But that's all. I was just asking, do we notify? I understand all that, because we have different, if you will, student teachers, whether it's in the psychology area or if it's in the classroom arena or.
We have counselors and then.
Right, that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
is they're different, pockets of.
And typically they tried as much as they can incorporate them as part of the staff at the school. And it depends on the university, but some of them actually want them to have like a high school experience, but then also a middle school experience. So sometimes they'll do full semesters at each, and sometimes they'll split up a semester and do some at one level and also at another. But they have multiple layers of supervision, including those that are immediately supervising them, but then the administrators on the campus, as well as Ray Ann Diddle, who also assists as a go-between between the university and the district.
So it's easy for the Chapman students just to walk across the street door and tie.
We appreciate our Chapman University students as they apply to be teachers on our campus. We're actually fortunate to have a lot of different universities close by.
Right.
Concordia, Cal State Fullerton.
It's right across, I
so,
just made the joke across the street.
We don't have favorites because all of them are really great, and we need teachers. So
right.
It lands up being mutually beneficial.
Okay.
I'd like to just add something to that. On many of our school visits, we've seen the student teachers in action alongside with the teachers, and I would say it's such an invaluable experience for not only the students, but also the teachers. I mean, it adds an additional adult in the room to give hands-on help, and so I just think this is a win-win for us.
It seems to be we approve these all the time, right? I mean, there's nothing different about this than the last 4 years we've been approving these, right?
Yes, and before it was a practice just because we had the board policy that we would just enter into the agreements. But I would say probably about 3 years ago, it was brought forward as a recommendation from the business department that we actually ratify the agreements through board action. So we've been bringing those forward since then, but the partnerships have been there for decades.
Right. So I was going to say, I've been here only for 4 years, but it seems like I've never had that question before. I was just curious. Thank you.
The fact is, you can't have teachers well prepared unless they have these practicum experiences in the real life classroom. So we need teachers, so
yeah.
And I do
it's in our
appreciate that
best
we're
interest
growing
to
them
help
here.
get them trained.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was this item that Trustee Ramsey pulled?
I did.
That was yours. Which was the one that you pulled?
GG.
Right, but I think, should we handle these each one at a time so that now that Mr. Ortega has asked his questions, do you want to?
When I said 13GG earlier, someone corrected me and said 12C, so I
think they're trying to go in order, so we'll go to hers next. Yeah.
Okay. I just was confused.
Well, next is 13V.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, we'll go in order. All right.
Yeah.
They weren't given to me in numerical order, so that's why.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Well, should we vote? Should we
That's
vote?
what I was
Yes, I was
wondering.
gonna
Do you
make a
wanna
vote right
Go ahead and
now.
vote, Mr. Ortega.
Want to make a, Trustee Ortega moves,
I'll second.
Trustee Erickson seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, now we'll go to 13B in order.
There we go.
So in reference to the Zone to Grow, the social emotional learning support platform, to the tune of 110,000 to, is it STG is the company? Yeah. So when we look at the, again, the item itself, I don't have it in front of me, but, looking comprehensive social emotional platform empowers schools to improve, SEL and academic health through an easy, engaging reflection and feedback process. Teachers, principals, counselors have a real-time understanding of student emotions and can proactively intervene to support students. Basically, this is a platform, electronic platform, or?
Yes, so this is the one that was presented at our last board meeting when we did the presentation on our community grant. And this would be the platform that we would utilize in the 11 schools of the community grant. So basically, the platform provides students the option, and it's kind of like what we do in our lower grades and even in our upper grades, where teachers get an idea of where kids are at when they walk in. So there could be 5 happy faces on a regular classroom, and you have a kid's name on a particular maybe clip, and they clip where the kid clips how they're feeling. So some teachers use it as weather, some teachers use it as happy faces. This platform uses it in happy faces. So students would log on and basically could provide how they're feeling, how they're starting their day. So it gives teachers instant data of where a student's at, but the data is shared only with the counselors. It's not shared with anybody else. It can be done on a daily basis. We haven't decided yet if it's going to be done on a daily, if it's going to be 3 times a week, once a week. Once we have the platform, we will be working with teachers on designing that with the 11 schools. So that's as far as it goes. Kids can type in if maybe they picked a face that was kind of neutral, and they can kind of talk about what it is, if there's something that, they had a bad morning, or maybe they're hungry, or something that gives an indication of why they categorize themselves feeling that particular way. In addition, in the platform, there's curricular resources for teachers that they could use alongside their Nearpod. Nearpod's something we've been using in terms of social emotional lessons, just again, helping students become, persevere, being able to make decision making, being able to categorize how they're feeling, and be able to be self-advocates of themselves and their learning. So there's resources in there. There's professional development resources for teachers that they could use within their classrooms. So again, it's for the 11 schools of the Community Schools Grant.
So it says here that it's funded by the U.S. Department of Ed, National Science Foundation, and Digital Promise. Seeing that these entities are here and that we're collecting this data literally on a daily basis, I walk through the door and I'm just tired and I just type in whatever because I'm a kid. But aside from that, we're adding more to the teacher in the classroom to do this evaluation from the onset of entering the classroom, number one. And number two is, there's a couple items in here related to data. It's like, what happens to that data? Who's it shared with?
The data is not shared with anybody. The data stays within the school.
How do we guarantee that it's not shared?
We can do that once we have the approval with the contract. Business Services works with the contracts, and they have those agreements. They're written protocols.
Okay. Is there a way that it can be brought to us to say in that specific language that it's guaranteed that, there's no data being shared with any outside entities, even, STG, or for that matter, even the Department of Ed, and I don't even know who Digital Promise is.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we can do. We can actually have a contract drawn up before that you can look at, and you can pre-approve before we approve it.
Well, who
That's not a problem.
is Digital Promise?
Digital Promise is an agency that works on various initiatives having to do with social emotional health. They do academics.
Technology.
But I mean,
They're part of the League of Innovative Schools. Correct, Marie?
Yes.
So they delve themselves in a quite variety of academic and social emotional areas.
but who, again, I guess, who are they?
They're a think tank out of Washington, D.C. They have several different entities they work with.
So that in itself, just based on what you just said, a
Mhm.
think tank scares the hell out of me.
Well, I just want to, they're-
Because, again,
Yeah.
that's why I pose these questions, because a think tank is now collecting data on our kids.
No,
Hold on.
there would never be release of student data.
That's why I'm posing these questions the way I am, because I'm going off of what you just said, a think tank. Think tanks all day want to collect data,
They do
information.
They do research to give to schools. They don't take from schools. We would never, in our policies and our procedures, we would never release student data ever on any circumstance without approval of the parent. We do not do that. We have to go through, like you can see, there's a Chapman agreement on here to release for just a small study with Chapman University.
Well, I'll get to that.
Yeah, I know you will. But there's definitely a process to release that data. We don't release any data on students, ever,
Okay, I just,
unless it's approved by the parent or it is done in a manner that it's totally blind. There's no way that it can be identifiable to a particular student.
And that's not just policy, that's law.
That's law. We do not give student data out. We just don't.
But the contractor probably has something in their agreement that says we get to use this data.
No.
Has been times where we have been with contractors who have come forward and asked that we release data, and we don't contract with them. So we always say no.
well, again, I just,
How do they run their business then?
I just don't feel comfortable because we have these three entities in here, and we're asking these kids from this grant from 11 schools to participate on a daily basis. And a so-called think tank and, National Science Foundation, whoever they are, obviously we know Department of Ed, but again, this is, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with it. And that's why I brought it up, and especially hearing now. I just can't support this one based on this recent information.
I'll just ask a question. So from what I understand, what this is it's a tool for our teachers to be able to gauge when their students walk in the door, how their students feeling, and then it also allows them some sort of professional development and tools in order to assess that information. So the teacher has that as a tool to help her children, to help her students, so that they can effectively absorb the curriculum that they're trying to be taught. Is that my understanding?
Correct, but the counselor will be the lead on this, not the teacher.
So the counselor is getting this information. The counselor is perhaps given information that puts them on notice. In fact, I just had a parent talk to me about this, that their counselor got in touch with them saying, we have some concerns. They were able to get on it immediately, and it was nothing. I mean, it turned out to be nothing, but this was a way for them to be able to identify, to make sure that there were no problems, to prevent things from happening before things got out of control, right?
And it's a digital too. We do it already, but like I said, most of the time right now, it's something that's addressed on a board. If you walk into many of the classrooms, you'll see as far down as TK or even PK, you see there's always something on the board where students identify how they're feeling. It gives the teacher an opportunity to know where that kid is at so that they can address different modalities, not only their academic, but their social emotional. We all know if kids aren't feeling well, they're more than likely not going to be accessing the curriculum correctly that day.
I just don't understand how even 5 years ago, this wasn't an issue. We weren't concerned about how kids were feeling in class. I mean, we were actually teaching kids. And now, because of the pandemic, we insert this factor of social emotional, and let's all run in there with our consultants and services and surveys and what have you. What changed? I mean, what changed was the only thing that I can see is the pandemic, and yes, that did have some kind of emotional, but it also had the effects of learning loss. And so I don't see how some of this is addressing learning loss. I just see this as attacking the emotions of a child right now, and without any kind of, I don't think we have a good handle on this. I think we should take a step back, and actually with VNG, and take a step back and rethink this whole social emotional programs that we're running through this district. And I've got some ideas on that, but I'll let the meeting continue.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I may, on this whole idea of addressing some issues like stress among our students, stress among our kids, stress among our families, stress among adults, stress everywhere. You can hardly pick up a newspaper, you can hardly pick up a magazine, you can hardly see a news report without hearing about the effects of stress on people's health, on businesses, on productivity, on all kinds of important processes in life. And yes, I think it was all exacerbated by the stresses associated with the pandemic. People's health was severely affected. Sometimes people lost family members to COVID. Sometimes people lost their jobs because their companies and their employers stopped operating during that time. All kinds of sources of stress, and that added to it. But the whole idea of the stresses that are on our society in general, whether it's school children or families or adults, the stress levels have been going up way before the pandemic. And it's just sort of now that is becoming a widespread awareness, and a thought that we need to do something because it's having really serious effects on our kids. And one of them is, what's been mentioned, if the child is not like feeling happy and feeling, okay this morning, that maybe he's or she's not in the best frame of mind to be able to pay attention to 3+3 or whatever the topic is. We're teaching them all the time. And I don't think these surveys and stuff, they're just little snippets and they don't go on for like a half an hour or anything. It's just a little thing. And then, like Mrs. Erickson said, those survey results are talked over with the counselor, and then if there's something that raises a concern, then the counselor calls the parent that day to say, is there something going on? May I help you with something? Johnny or Susie, indicated this or that they're worried, that they're sad, that they're whatever. And talking with the parent, how can we help you? And that's all in the efforts to help our students to be healthier and happier and better learners in school. And I think it's only right that we start paying attention to things that are having terrible consequences for our students. So that's my take on this.
Can I say something? Oh, I'm sorry.
Trustee
Go ahead.
Page.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, social emotional development has been around for decades, and I think what Ms. Carrillo was trying to share was that this will help address the students' like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if they're not fed or slept well, the teacher would understand that that's where the need is coming from, not that, or the counselor would address that, rather than a potential learning disability or, you know, that there's a different route. So it's multiple facets of how to be able to support the student as opposed to just kind of like clumping them all together like we had in the 90s when we had a rise in special needs students. And so it's mainly to address that. And because it's directly connected to the community schools grant that was presented at the last meeting, where it really just breaks down that there's a lot of needs within that grant that need to be addressed. And this is just one way that our counselors and teachers would be able to assess that information. Is that what you were implying?
Correct, and it also provides a linkage between the, you know, the counselor, the community liaison, that's also funded through the grant, and the parents. So again, establishing and strengthening that family network.
Can I say a couple things?
Sure.
I actually feel a little divided because I do employ social emotional learning in my classroom. I've done all my research on my own. You know, you can go out there, you could go to Teacher Pay Teacher and get all kinds of resources and stuff. So it's all kind of being filtered through me. I do think that creating a safe space for learning is definitely best practices, and that our students need help managing. Sometimes they need help managing their anxiety, and we are, as the teacher, on the front line for that. Question: what is the age range that this will be implemented?
It encompasses all grade levels at the elementary level.
So at the elementary level?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that it came with lessons. So I understand leaning towards all this technology, and kids are going to come in and they're going to click a button and they're going to check in. You know, I don't want to get rid of the face-to-face stuff that happens as well. And I'm not implying that this would get rid of that, but that, you know, it's just kind of this another, I mean, just last week I had a worksheet on their desk and I said, how are you feeling today? And I had all these different words and they could circle the words. So that was a form of checking in with my students. Mm-hmm. So I certainly am not against that. But what I wanted to know is if it was possible to see some of the lessons then that come with this program.
Sure, we can do that. We could get you a login. And that's what I offered last time at the presentation. I said anybody who wanted to see any of the information in here, any of the lessons, could just ask for a login and we could provide that for you. So we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind our board too, every year when we get the LCAP back, which is from all of our stakeholders and many, many, many parents, they always mention mental health and mental health services and social emotional services as being a priority. So I think it's important that we remember that. I also think we need to remember that, you know, a few years ago, and it's still a problem, you know, things like teen suicide are huge. They're epidemic. We, as a society, kind of ignored that for a while, and we shouldn't have been. And we, as a district, have been trying to ensure that we're doing those sort of wraparound services for our students so that we can take care of them and make sure that they are not going to, make sure that they're able to really maximize their time while they're at school. And just in terms of lessons, I mean, I watched a lesson. I watched Mrs. Ballestero's lesson, second grade, right? amazing lesson in social emotional learning, and it was done in so many different ways, so that there's some students that maybe just want to do something anonymous, like put their happy face or sad face, but some of these students, she gave them sheets, and it had like a little toolbox, and it said, you know, when I'm feeling scared, what are the tools that I can use? And they could either draw pictures if they weren't able to write out the words, or they could write out sentences. And the things that they talked about were, you know, I can eat a healthy snack, I can play with my dog, I can do, and so those are the sorts of things that are really important, because you're getting that sort of anxiety out and that ability to communicate. So then you have a classroom that's now able to learn and communicate with one another. And I was blown away, honestly, by that second grade class and the communication skills that those kids had. And it was a social emotional lesson. And so that's the kind of thing. It's not some weird, nefarious thing. This is just a really good tool for students to be able to really make the most of their education. And I mean, I think anything we can do to help our kids is what we need to be doing.
I don't think anybody said it's weird or nefarious. We're just asking questions. And I don't think we related any of this to suicide. I do think, though, all I'm just saying is I think we need to take a step back and take a look at these social emotional programs, both V and G. I had those pulled, my colleagues pulled them, but I had those pulled because I think we ought to take a look at this and see, how do we integrate this better? How do we make this more comprehensive? How do we involve more individuals with oversight? Maybe a few more parents can get involved in some of this social emotional, because I think that's what's happening in the classroom here is we're asking teachers and our counselors and our school personnel to parent these kids, and so why not bring parents in, actually, when it comes to the decision making. And then, we have to be careful with some of these programs, because once the funding goes away, are we going to get rid of everyone's crutch? That's the thing that we need to be careful about with funding. Once the funding's gone and you have these programs and everybody, well, where to go? That was such a good program that worked out, and now it's not there anymore. So that's the thing. I'm for some kind of a subcommittee put together to take a look at these social emotional programs that we're bringing forward and imposing on our kids.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Are we done?
One, right? We're going to vote just on V, right?
On 13V.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
13V.
What item are we?
13V.
Be like in Victor.
V as in Victor.
Sown to grow.
Brown.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Trustee Page, second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, just in response to my colleague, and I respect your concerns, but after all the things that you've heard about the programs, about how they're run, about how they involve parents, about how in the implementation, for example, of these like daily checks or periodic checks of how are you feeling today, that the counselor called the parent that same day. The parents are involved. The parents are the partners. The parents are working in connection with the schools. And as Mrs. Erickson said, we know from having our reports of our LCAP, every year the parents are asking for more student supports, more counselors, more school nurses, more tutors, more classroom aides, all kinds of things to assist students as they learn. And this is coming from our parents by the thousands, these inputs. So we're working together with parents. not on opposite sides.
Well, that may be true, but then we can get into something that's not even on the agenda about what we're teaching the kids in school.
Well, I think
is a
we
whole
do have
nother-
to stay on the agenda.
Well, I'm just
Mrs.
going
Moffitt,
based on what you're saying. So I'm just, we are inclusive of parents, but how much are we really telling the parents of what we're teaching them and showing them? What happened to the initial assessment or observation? Hey, good morning, how are you? Those are, but again, I'm not going to, I'll just leave it there. But
And when we keep talking about the parent involvement with the LCAP, parent involvement's not that high through the LCAP. I think it's a couple thousand parents. I think it's probably for our parent populations, it's probably less than 10%. So we can't say that it's parent involvement.
Ms. Corella, can you tell us how many parents participate in the LCAP?
We had, 11,000 last year, Ms. Rodriguez? Yeah, 11,000 responses. That's just parents.
Thank you.
So if two-parent home, so that's, we have probably, that's out of 50,000? 20%, and we're representing it as a majority of the
Well,
parents?
all the parents have an opportunity to participate.
Well, not all parents are able to because of the way that it's structured.
11,000 responses is pretty good.
But it's not a majority.
It's pretty good for any kind of outreach.
It's not fair to represent something that it's not.
But that's not the only thing. The teachers are seeing these kids every single day. They're talking to many of their parents every single day. It's a combination of things. I mean, it's easy to point to one thing and say you don't like that one thing, but all of these things are happening in combination. The teacher is seeing their students every day having a conversation, but they're also able to, talk to the counselor and say, hey, is there anything going on I need to know about? They're also able to talk to the parent. They also call the parent when they come home. I mean, this is a whole process that happens. It's easy to just point to one thing and say you don't like it, but we're trying to do the whole thing.
I'm not saying one thing. I said we need to take a step back.
There's no
step back and look at the whole program. Look at it, and how we're going to integrate all these different programs that are being presented and evaluate the programs before we start implementing. All we're doing is bringing, staff recommendations to us that they have evaluated. I think there's more stakeholders. If you're really going to call out the stakeholders because of the LCAP, then bring them in.
Well, that's the point. I mean, going to schools, talking to parents, that's what we do. That's what I do all the time. I talk to parents all the time and
We're
ask
not
them how
involving
things are
them, though.
doing.
We're not involving them in some of these
They're involved in their children's
social-emotional
education.
programs.
Yeah, they are.
So was there a first or a second on this one? I'm
Yes,
not
we
sure
already
where we
had
are.
we
Okay,
had a,
just wanted
So there
to-
is a motion on the floor right now. So why don't we just call for a vote? All right?
Item 13V, correct?
V as in
V
valid.
like Victor.
Yeah. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
no.
No.
So 5-2. Right? Okay, motion is adopted, 5-2. Okay, we'll go on to item 13EE. Yep.
So educators, is it co-op? Cooperative? So is it Steve Rieger?
Correct. Dr. Steve Rieger is the host of the whole cooperative, and he has quite a few different consultants that work with him.
So how long have we contracted with this gentleman?
Approximately 12 years.
We've had him 12 years?
Correct.
And so in 12 years, what have we spent with this gentleman?
We'd have to go back and, if we have to go back 12 years, we'd have to go back and get that information.
So what does he and his consultants do?
So they're experts in all of the core academics as well as technology. He also has a core team that works with mental health, not mental health for students, but mental health for staff. So last year he did a lot of our mental health clinics for our classified and our certificated staff. But he has experts in all the core fields. So he's done things with us when we were transitioning to the new standards. He did things with math. He's done things with science, English language arts, history, technology, instructional strategies. So he can cover basically almost every need that we have for professional development. He also works with coaching. So he works with a few of our principals in terms of principal coaching. When I explained that earlier in our other meeting. So he does work with particular principals also. So he's done, division, professional development, as well as specific school development. So principals are able to call him or his team in for particularly any area.
So with that said, so we've probably spent several $1 million if you saying he's been here for 12 years.
I know for myself, when I was the curriculum director, my contracts would range anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000, maybe 90 at the most a year. So I became the curriculum director in, 2013? So that's as much as I know from that point on. But I think he was here a couple years before I started here.
So you're saying he's basically integrated himself into our district to provide professional development to our leadership?
Teachers.
Teachers and leadership.
So does this have anything to do with like what we just spoke about, like SEL, this whole, push for the ethnic and CRT studies and?
No, he has not done anything with ethnic studies. He has not done anything with students. He's done mental health forums for staff. So when I talk about that, those are book studies, those on breathing techniques. He did things like that for staff last year. But most of his work over the course of the years has really been academic based.
So based on what you just said, so is that like a stress reliever training?
There's that book, Well-Being at Work, which he did a book study with classified and certificated staff. And it's called Connect to Wellness. And they're small, short, brief little sessions where just like students, teachers, we all need to focus on how we're well at work and focus on our own well-being so we can be well for others. Teachers have to be there every day for those children, and administrators, principals too. It was a challenging year last year, and so there was a lot of need from the adults in the organization as well. So he has several, they're called Connect to Wellness sessions. Some were done like remotely online with classified staff whenever they were available to attend. There were various workshops they could sign up. And this was a request of
This was a request of our staff.
It was a request from staff, and he developed it. And it's based on the book Well-Being at Work, I believe it was.
Correct, Well-Being at Work.
So he's a professional development expert, and his focus is on academic achievement and supporting schools, working directly with teachers to design lessons, to understand content standards and assessment. He and his team have an extensive expertise, and it's been mainly the last 12 years been focused on achievement and content area expertise.
So based on the PDs, if you will, does he then lend himself to research based on the PDs to further develop his PDs? No, I'm
not a researcher. He's not a
just
researcher.
asking.
No. He's a professional development expert.
Okay.
Any further questions?
But I would still like to see that dollar amount, if you can provide it in a Friday letter, please.
We can do that.
Yes, I could do that.
Thank you.
In another way, you could say this particular person, because he's been associated with our district for that long a time, he has a track record of successful work with our employees and satisfactory, and been asked back along a 12-year.
Yeah, he and his team are very well regarded. I was just at Handy Elementary and spoke with the principal there. And they're going to be doing some work around strategic thinking and really organizing in a systematic way some of the work they're doing in the classroom. And so the principal was really excited because one of the team members from Educators Co-op, and they had requested that training, that they knew there was one of the members of the team that was an expert in that area, and they were going to really focus in on some student achievement objectives around strategic thinking and how to meet the needs of students.
Right. I think anytime we are hiring someone, if they have a 12-year record of satisfactory service to us, I think that speaks pretty highly for future success and future satisfaction. Last night, I just want to mention that at the joint dinner between AXA and CSBA, there was a professional development exercise for the board members and the administrators who were there, and it was all about gratitude and about how an attitude of gratitude helps your own peace of mind and state of mind and happiness and all that kind of thing. So these ideas about wellness are everywhere. Just like I just said, you pick up a newspaper, you look on the TV news, you see a magazine, you go to a professional development that's designed for school board members and for school district leaders, and they're talking about wellness. It's everywhere because it's needed. It's needed. I think this is terrific, and I thank Mrs. Corella for doing all of this work.
My only point about this is that this agreement is in place already before the board approved it. It says this agreement will be in effect from October 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. How did that happen?
Perhaps because we only had one business meeting in September.
We can change the date. It could be a typo that was in there, so.
It could be a typo. I can look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got a motion on the floor for this, right? Did I?
I don't think you have a
Okay.
motion
I
on
didn't
this
have
one.
it? Okay.
No.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move item 13EE.
Thank you, Trustee Moffitt.
I'll second.
Trustee Erickson? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
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 So motion passes 4-3. Okay, we'll go on to item
GG.
13GG.
Yeah.
Conscious discipline.
So I pulled this item. I went to this website, and it didn't take me very long to find critical race theory ideology here. Right at the beginning, it says, "I firmly believe systematic racism must be dismantled, and I will be a part of the solution as the voices of Black Lives Matter movement call for increased equity and social justice. Conscious discipline will answer with unequivocal support and actionable change." And I have more pages on that platform. At one point it says, if you'd like to read or watch more, check out How to Be an Anti-Racist, Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You, Anti-Racist Baby, a Picture Book, and then TED Talk and podcast. So this is where I feel a little divided with social emotional learning, because whereas I kind of see it with rose-colored glasses and this great thing, then I see something like this and I go, okay, that's not okay.
What is that?
This is from the website Conscious Discipline, which is what is being asked of us to vote on.
I wonder if that's a different website, because I'm on it right now and I don't see any of that.
So our contract with this came out of a request and a dire need from our TK and our kindergarten teachers on basically how to provide specific team building strategies and creating that culturally relevant environment. And what we mean by culturally relevant, we don't mean anything with any components of CR. We mean being able to engage with the student so that they feel respected and valued in the classroom. So I will ask Ms. Rodriguez if she could just talk a few minutes about what is provided in the training, because we have done this training, I think, at least one time before, Ms. Rodriguez, and it was very valuable to the teachers and the administrators who attended.
Max, here he comes.
Right behind you.
Batteries out.
Thank you. Max to the rescue. Okay, hi. We have used conscious discipline strategies in our TK classroom pretty much from the inception of the program so it's many years. So what it really works on is the teaching of students about self-regulation of their emotions. So we have different strategies in place in a TK classroom that you can observe when you go in there. So we'll have like a visual schedule so that they sort of know what's coming next, and the teacher will point to that. We have emotional check-ins, like we were sort of talking about earlier, how are you feeling? We have the happy faces. They can mark, not mark, but touch what they're feeling. We have another strategy where we have a quiet place for them to go when they know that they're not feeling right, they're upset, so they can remove themselves from the moment and then work themselves back into the class. And a lot of this is based on brain research that was done by Becky Bailey. And it's all about building that classroom environment, and again, helping the children know how to interact with each other. There's conflict resolution. So it's an actual book that we work from. And right now, as our age of TKers are getting younger, they're coming in with just a lot more of a need for regulating their emotions, so that when they're in check, when they can actually focus, then they're actually learning. Because we can't reach a mind that's moving around a lot. So as soon as we can get them focused, they can learn. So that's basically what it is. It's all based on brain research. So I don't know if that helped a little bit.
I'm sorry. I am looking at some notes, and it I can't click on my notes, but it does say consciousdiscipline.com/supporting racial equity next steps forward conscious dash discipline.
Loving Guidance LLC is what it's called.
Yeah, Loving Guidance.
It doesn't have racial. It's not. I'm on the website right now. It might be a different one.
Did you mention Becky Bailey?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said before, exactly what you just explained, I completely support and
that's
agree with.
And that's what this in-service is all for, is getting all of our TK teachers, and we want to invite some of our kindergarten teachers in on this so that they are practicing some of these strategies, because they're also experiencing students coming in with some conflict and emotional conflict. So again, until we can really reach them, then we can teach them. So we got to work on that. So that's really what we're focused on. It's those routines in the classroom.
And this is, I'm sorry if you said this already,
That's
but
okay.
you said which age levels will use this one?
This is going to be focused for our TK.
Okay.
So that's our 4-year-olds.
So the other one is for the elementary, but this one is for TK.
Sown to Grow. Is that the one you're talking about, other one? Yeah, that's going to be at our 11 elementary schools, and that would be some where they'll all have TK, but it's going to be focused on K-6, because in TK we're working using conscious discipline. And I can bring the book over if you'd like to look at it. I have that in my office.
5,070. Not to exceed 5,070.
Yeah, it's just for an in-service.
I mean, I have a question in reference to Becky Bailey. I mean, I don't have a computer in front of me, but what does she support? What is her ideology?
For this, she's supporting the brain research to help emotional regulation, that students learn how to do that. And this is guiding the adults on how to manage that in a classroom and how to handle these situations that come up and try to build strategies and also the routines in the classroom so the children know what to expect, because we know at those younger ages they need that support and that scaffolding.
And if you ever have a chance to go and visit, we saw those at the TK programs that we visited last week. And the teachers were leading the children in talking about different emotions and different ways that they might feel at any particular time. And then at a time when the kids were doing some station activities, I saw a little girl going in the little quiet space and all on her own. And she just kind of huddled in this little quiet space. And I thought, she knows that that's a place to go to kind of, I don't know,
collect
relax.
herself.
Yeah, whatever. And it was really interesting. It was very interesting.
So is Becky Bailey related in the sense to loving guidance? But does she also have her own website called Conscious Discipline?
That I don't know. If it's a separate, I don't know which website you're looking at. She could be part of both. I don't know.
have a computer in front of me. I just have notes. So I
don't
can't
know.
click notes.
Maybe Ms. Rumsey could forward the website that she's referring to. I'm just looking at it quickly here, and I don't see that. But
ConsciousDiscipline.com? Or are you looking at Loving Guidance?
no, I'm at consciousdiscipline.com, and I'm just clicking.
Is it
quickly
Becky
through.
Bailey?
Yeah, I don't see anything, but if you forward me the page, I'd like to look at it.
I would have to.
Okay.
I thought we had a policy on against using electronics.
And I don't want to use my electronics in front of everyone. I was just trying to reference for myself.
Yeah, if you could send it to me, that would be great.
Okay.
Well, if we can get electronics, I know I did order one and I didn't pick it up, but I'd like to order another system so I can reference all this stuff when we're at a board meeting.
Okay.
Because I can pull out my phone right now and go on the computer and look, but then I get blamed for using it for a personal device. So I can't look right now. So all I know is, you know, from what I read about her and what she supports, I don't support any of that. You know, this commitment to advance racial equity and essential next steps for conscious discipline and raising anti-racist kids and things like that.
That's not the topics we'll be covering.
No, I'm not saying whether we do or don't.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just saying this is what she supports. And I can't support that. Again, we're focused in on this SEL for kids, but yet we're bringing in people to add more to the kids in their ideologies to, again, I don't know, but, you know, is there a possibility of shifting their mindset to believe in something? I don't know that. I don't know these individuals if they were standing in front of me, but based on what I've seen is what's trying to be pushed in education right now, I feel really bad for a lot of these kids. That a lot of that education that I just don't support is just it's the indoctrination of these kids, and I feel really bad for them. And the movement is moving so fast in this way. And there is a lot of evidence out there nowadays. We keep referring to the social emotional of these kids. Well, let's go back, because now there's evidence to prove that these lockdowns didn't work and we shouldn't have done them. So we, in essence, ruined kids and people's lives in that manner. And this isn't posed to you. It's more of, now that we're talking about all of this and the stresses and everything associated with it, now the evidence is saying we shouldn't have done any of that stuff because it wasn't warranted. But that's another discussion, but we're talking about the social emotional, therefore I can bring it up based on that. So again, we're looking and we're trying to drive so much and putting on top of these kids, our staff, our parents. There's a lot. And I just, staff, you guys have brought together all of these different buckets, if you will, of SELs. And you're posing them in here in such a way, it's like, I don't understand it. I understand we're here to support kids, we're here to support staff. I mean, by all means, that's my job. One of 7 as a policymaker is to make sure we provide the correct and best policies for our staff and students. But this stuff that you are providing forward is I'm sorry, I just can't support it. The individuals that and how they're trying to move forward because of their own beliefs, and we're allowing them in the education system, that just baffles me. And that's why you're having a lot of other issues with parents, related to the stressors of what we're teaching our kids. So I'm sorry, I can't support that, just based on who she is and what she supports and what she believes. I don't want her in our school district. So.
Can I just want to kind of bring it back to what the actual item is, which is Loving Guidance LLC will provide quality professional development for all TK and kindergarten teachers within the district. A training session is scheduled for November 8th that will focus on team building skills, classroom unity, and practical engagement strategies that can be facilitated within the classroom with the noted grade span. I'm not even seeing SEL in that or any of those things that you're talking about. There's absolutely nothing about that. And we've had this person training before, so it's about basically what I'm seeing in this, and maybe I'm wrong, but this looks like classroom management, just like classic classroom management to me. Team building skills, classroom unity, all of those things that you are pontificating on, and it is a pontification because none of that is here. It's not in here.
Well, then you're saying professional development, but when you go back to Educators Cooperative, what are they doing
You're
then?
talking about personal beliefs of somebody, but that's not what this person is being brought here for. I mean, really, you're going to go into the personal beliefs of any vendor that we bring into our district? What is it that they're doing? What is it that we're approving? We've seen the kind of training that they've done, apparently, and it seems to be supported. None of those outside things are listed in here. So I guess we're getting really off topic when you're talking about all of these political things that really have nothing to do with this action item. So I guess I just, like I said, want to bring it back to what it is that we're approving. If you don't want to approve a training session that will focus on team building, classroom unity, and practical engagement strategies, then don't vote for it. But don't bring a lot of stuff into this that it isn't.
Then move it forward.
Some of these folks wear many hats, and that's what we're concerned about.
All right, I'm going to just call for a motion. Anyone want to move it?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Trustee Moffitt? Any further discussion?
Item 13, double G.
Correct. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Motion passes 4-3. Okay, we'll go to item 13HH.
Question for staff is in reference to this committee, advisory committee on technical education. It seems like we have a lot of staff. We have some students, but we only have 2 parents. Is there a reason why we didn't have the opportunity to add some more parents in reference to?
That might be the requirement, is only 2 parents. Ms. Green, do you want to come up and talk about?
Is it on? Okay. So the requirement is to have CTE teachers, CTE administration, business partners, parents, students, just representation of it all. So what we do is our P21 specialists working with our CTE teachers at our school sites reach out to their business partners, the families of their students and such, and their students in their classes, and they ask if anybody would like to volunteer to be a part of the committee. So that's how we get, and then they give the names to us, and basically everyone that volunteers is added onto the committee. So in the future, if there's anyone that wants to be a part of the committee and isn't on the committee, if there's any parents out there that want to additionally be a part of the committee, we would love to have as many people as we can on our committee and hear the voices of as many people as we can.
Well, I'm not suggesting to have 50 people because then you get nothing done.
I know that's true, but seriously, everybody on that committee is everybody that volunteered for it.
Okay. One of the things I would ask the soup is there a way, thank you, is there a way that we can have at least listed on our website? I know we've had committees come by over this past year, and supposedly it's drawn out of a hat randomly, but we keep seeing the same names, or at least I keep seeing the same names in a random scenario. How random is that when we continually see similar names on all these different committees? You know, so that's one question. Number two is there a way we can list the various committees that we do have and say, hey, we have opportunities presenting themselves to volunteers to be a part of it. If you as a parent or whoever have that ability or that technical side of your wheelhouse, would you want to participate in it? And or even before years past, we as a board used to choose respectfully a few folks individually to be on these different committees from the board. And that has been long gone and haven't seen it back. But that is a real concern of mine because I keep seeing the same names on all these different committees, but yet it's random. I don't know how random that is. And this person, if they're that lucky to serve on all these committees on a random, they must win the lotto every week to be selected in a random, pick a draw of the hat. So those are really some concerns. Thank Lisa Green for, bringing forward, those who want to volunteer step forward type deal. But I just want to see that we provide that opportunity in the future that we do list it. These are our committees that we switch out every year we rotate, get some fresh ideas in there.
We do have a list of all our committees on the website, and we can put it maybe somewhere where it's more accessible. But it is listed on the Ed Services website under Parent Involvement. It lists all the committees. Anyone who wants to come can come. Some of the committees that are larger are established through a randomized process. We can explain that to you in the Friday letter, how that works. But maybe all those other committees that we have, we can put on a tab on the front page of the website. So we can address your questions.
Okay, thank you.
On this committee, it'd be nice to see a parent from each of the high schools. Parent representative from each of the high schools on this committee. Just a suggestion. And then waiting for volunteers. I understand that, but we could also invite and or recruit. I mean, we have 11,000 parents that are involved in the LCAP. I'm sure there's a couple in there that might want to be invited into one of these committees.
Yeah, we can work on getting a parent from each of the high schools.
Thank you.
And not the same ones that are randomly chosen to serve on all these other committees either.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Trustee Page moves it. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Moffitt?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item passes 7-0. Okay, now we go on to item 13MM.
So back to this data sharing with Chapman University. The question is that Chapman is conducting a study and desired exchange performance data of the program and in-school reading performance of the students. The study involves Chapman using identifiable data and blinded data provided by OUSD to perform an effectiveness study on reading tutorial or tutoring program at elementary. It goes on saying that Dr. Roseanne Gretz Miller, who is not involved in the teaching reading program course nor the delivery of the program, but yet she's the researcher, it seems like, on this. So this identifiable data and blinded data is going to be shared with this person for research. Number one, is that true? We're going to be sharing student data.
They're going to share student data scores. So they're going to compare the students that are involved in the tutoring program against the students that are not involved. There'll be a number of them at one elementary school, but there's not any names, there's not any IDs attached, there's nothing attached to it, just scores.
Blind data is, it's just raw scores provided in an aggregate form with no identifiable data. The only identifiable data is the score. There's no identification to an individual student, classroom teacher, any of that.
So is there going to be some financial gain on her end of it or Chapman's end of it? Or is this just going to be a research on our students, so-called blinded? My basic fear is sharing data of our kids. And as we all know, the information has gotten out. We've had hackers attack every public entity or governmental agency, I should say. But it's like, who's the custodian of this data? And number one, and number two, where is it going to be stored, and what are they going to do with it afterwards? Because I mean, let's face it. If we're going to say you're going to guarantee 100% that there is no student data or student names or anything associated with this data, you can guarantee me 100% there would be no leakage of anything at all being shared with this Roxanne Miller.
That's what we've always done. We've made sure that there's no data, student data ever shared with any of the agencies that we've done any kind of contract with.
And they go through an IRB process, so all of that's stipulated in that.
And I'll also add that there are consent forms that are provided to students and their families, whether or not they want to participate in a study. That's a regular research requirement by the Institutional Review Board of a university that participants have to provide consent. And so all of these agreements allow for the researcher, Dr. Miller, to have an information session with the students and the families to say, hey, this is an opportunity for you to participate, to help us to see if our tutoring program is successful in improving the reading for your children. If you'd like to participate, you can. Here's the consent form. We'll explain, all the risks of the study, that this is
this district-wide?
No, it's one elementary school.
One school.
One school. And it's a small sample, and it's comparing a group of students who received a particular tutoring program to those that did not, and they're trying to determine the efficacy of the program and whether they should replicate it if the results are very good for those students, so they can replicate it in other schools to help other students be more successful. So that's a typical university study. It's highly regulated. There's absolutely there's no intent to share data. That's never anything that the university or the school district would participate in.
So identifiable data and the blinded data are one and the same?
My understanding is the identifiable data would be the scores that are being shared to do the comparison. The blinded data is anything related to the student, such as the name, the ID number, what classroom they're in. They cannot be identified by individual student. It's just the raw scores are the data that they receive.
And what's the school?
We don't want to say.
That's part of us.
Left the school off on purpose.
We left the school off on purpose because we don't want to identify it.
Just wanted to ask.
Yeah, was that a test question or? No, I can share it with you privately as a board member, but I don't want to talk about the school because they're part of this. It's a research study where we want to protect the participants.
Is there a contractor collecting this data, or is it Chapman University collecting the data? Third-party contractor collecting data?
This is Chapman University. There's no contractor.
I just want to clarify. So this is a tutoring, reading and tutoring program that Chapman developed, and they basically want to see if it works.
Correct. They're looking at the instructional strategies and the curriculum that they're utilizing.
Okay, so they come in, they do these tutoring sessions. We have some students who have the tutoring sessions, some that don't. You provide all the raw data, no identifying information, and Chapman gets to look at it and say, okay, our program works or it doesn't work. Okay.
Does she happen to serve on any of our committees that we have in the district? Miller.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Okay. Are we done with discussion? I'm going to call for a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, Trustee Erickson, do I have a second? Trustee Page. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 7-0. I think that's it. That is it. Am I correct? Yep. All right. We'll go on to 17, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
No, we read through all the blue cards.
Okay, 18. Other board staff conference and comments?
I do.
comment.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
The question for staff on this one is, I felt it rather interesting. Saturday, preparing for a band conference and everything and utilizing the boys' bathroom. I walked in there thinking I was actually walking into a girls' bathroom. I had to walk out to make sure I was entering the right one. And I see feminine products on the wall in a dispenser. Can you please explain to me what that is all about?
I'm not sure that I can because I'm not aware of this, and I can look into it.
Please do, because this is rather shocking to me. I literally had to do a U-turn to make sure I was in the boys' bathroom. And it just shocked me to the core.
Can you let us know? Can you let us know which bathroom it was and what building?
I'll get with you tomorrow and I'll have to remember.
Okay, we need to know.
Because I was just like, what is this all about? What are we turning our boys' bathroom into? So that's a concern.
Could it be that sometimes I've heard that they have one bathroom open and so then they use that one bathroom for everybody at one point or another?
It's a boys' bathroom.
I'm just saying sometimes if one bathroom is open and the other one isn't?
Well, the girls' bathroom is on the other side.
I'm just
So,
guessing
well, I'm
that
just
maybe.
saying that's the way it's
We
lined up.
need to be careful because this is not agendized, and
Okay.
so.
No, I'm bringing it forward to
Yeah.
comments that
All right.
I would like, I'm asking for, I'm not trying to answer any questions. I'm bringing it forward as if you can provide that information as to why we're doing this. So that's number one. Number two is, are we looking, and you can provide the information into any, seeing that vaping is a big issue? If we're looking into any devices to install into the bathrooms, classrooms, what have you?
It's a great question. I actually have an item that I'm taking to executive cabinet on Tuesday in order to install.
Because that's a big problem on
Yes.
all campuses, not just A.
Correct. The team has been looking and researching different devices, and so we have a plan, and we're bringing it forward on Tuesday.
Okay.
So we would like the support on that.
No, absolutely. And again, it's like towards what we talked about, the policy on Narcan is a lot of these kids are now putting all the different variables into the vaping. It's not just, the flavored, if you will. It's a lot of the drugs that are going into vaping. So again, we really need to capture this in however we can. I'm not saying I have the answer, but it's just how are we going to approach it? Because, here we're approaching Narcan for overdoses with fentanyl and potential, with vaping, with whatever they're putting, with these vaping machines.
I fully agree with you, Mr. Ortega. And I'll be glad to provide an update in the Friday letter about these different devices that we've researched and hoping that we could get the approval for.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President? I have a comment. I just want to say, at the end of this long discussion, thank you and congratulations to our excellent staff for all the hard work that you do, preparing all the plans, bringing all these things to us for our approval, and standing up to the questioning, which certainly was not friendly this evening. The casting of aspersions, the intimating that there is something amiss, I'm sure is very difficult. It's difficult to listen to, much less being in the catcher's position, having these statements directed in your way. You do a great job. You are a world-class staff. We cannot do our jobs. We cannot help one kid without you all and without our teachers and our support staff. You all are smart, you're dedicated to our children, you are completely trustworthy, and you are extremely competent. And last night at this AXA and CSBA dinner, where they did a workshop, professional development for board members, they talked about how many positive things you have to hear in your life before you can let them overcome one negative thing that you hear. And it's like 6 or 7 to 1. So we have a lot of work to do to prop up our staff, even after this evening's session. So I just want to start out by saying you have my complete admiration and respect and gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one comment too. I just want to remind board members that we have governance and leadership team agreements and protocols in place. And so one of them is that, the superintendent will meet with the board president to finalize the agenda, which we do before public posting. The next one is board members will thoroughly read materials before the board meeting and will make every attempt to contact the superintendent with any questions they have on the agenda on the Wednesday prior to the meeting. Number 3, the superintendent will contact all board members before the meetings to answer any questions or discuss agenda items in need of further clarification. And 4 is board member questions will be answered in advance of the board meeting with the response provided to all board members. So and it goes on, but I just wanted to make sure that, we have respectful and no surprises to our staff, because right now we're putting them on the spot without them necessarily being prepared to answer every question in a way that could be thorough. I mean, I trust they're very competent and confident, but, it is a situation where I'm not saying you can't pull an item, you can, but it is courtesy to notify them that you're going to pull an item. And I know not every time it's going to happen, but as a matter of courtesy to our staff, I think it's important that we do this. And it's part of our norms and protocols. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned at 11:21.